Hi everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Welcome back to the channel.
Welcome to Novels Wonderland. OPM Reborn is King, Infinite 8 Gates, Chapter 112 to 146, Chapter 113, 1 verses. 4 Dragons. 1014 words. Chapter 113, 1 verses. 4 Dragons. The devastating golden energy storm continued to ravage the arena. Even the stronger demon-level monsters couldn't withstand its power, disintegrating into fragments one after another. Even Joro was struggling. Its psychic shield flickered and wavered like a small boat tossed in a stormy sea. Sensing the danger, Joro shouted urgently at Monster King Orochi, who stood beside it like a statue. "Lord Orochi! Please act now. The survival of the Monster Association depends on this. Use your unrivaled power to defeat King." However, faced with the desperate plea of the strategist who usually treated him as a tool, Orochi remained motionless. His cold, emotionless eyes stayed fixed on the figure within the golden energy storm. Damn it! What is going on? Joro struggled to maintain its psychic barrier, preventing its body from being torn apart by the energy storm. A bad feeling rose in its heart. Why has Lord Orochi suddenly lost control? What is happening? It felt extremely uneasy. Everything seemed to be spiraling out of control. The plan was completely disrupted. According to Joro's plan, the Monster Association was supposed to launch a worldwide surprise attack in about 10 days, sending hundreds of demon-level monsters to destroy cities and test the S-Class hero's strength. Then, they would kidnap the child of a VIP to lure the Hero Association into assembling an S-Class strike team for a rescue mission. Finally, they would match each S-Class hero against a monster perfectly suited to counter them, defeating them one by one. When the Hero Association was on its last legs, they would unleash Orochi's crushing power to wipe out the remaining forces and destroy humanity. That was the plan. Why has the variable become so huge? Joro didn't understand, and it wouldn't get the chance to. Spiderweb cracks appeared on the psychic shield in front of it. No matter how much Joro poured energy into it, the shield couldn't hold. With a roar of unwillingness and rage, Joro's body was torn apart by the sky-filling destructive energy, reduced to shreds. Only 4 entities remained on the field. 2 tall men with strange attire, each holding a sharp ninja sword. The one on the left had short, fiery red hair. His expression was arrogant yet incredibly solemn, his eyes filled with awe for King's terrifying power. As expected of the human known as the strongest hero. This AoE attack is breathtaking. Even our ninja arts cannot match it. The man on the right was handsome, with narrow phoenix eyes that held not just gravity and shock, but also the thrill of challenging the strong. Such powerful force. Gale, once this energy dissipates, we will kill King. Let the blood of the strongest man on earth add glory to our blades. These two were the speed-type dragon-level monsters, Hellfire Flame and Gale Wind. They hailed from the same ninja village as Flashy Flash and Sonic, though from a different graduating class. They were already powerful ninjas, but in pursuit of ultimate speed, they chose to become monsters, gaining speed far surpassing their previous limits. Aside from the powerful Monster King Orochi and the 2 ninjas hiding in the distance, only one other monster remained, a giant over 6 meters tall. Dragon-level executive, Guketsu. As a legendary martial artist supremely confident in his strength, becoming a powerful dragon-level monster had only elevated Guketsu's assessment of himself. He had once tried to challenge Monster King Orochi, only to be beaten into submission, reluctantly serving the Monster Association. In his eyes, unless it was a monster on Orochi's level, even King, the strongest man on Earth, couldn't make him flee without a fight. Under the gaze of the 4 monsters, the energy storm dissipated, revealing the tall, golden-haired figure. The mist of blood and countless severed limbs that had filled the air were ground into fine dust by the energy storm. The entire underground space now seemed empty. King had precisely controlled the spread of the energy to avoid destroying the entire underground structure. After all, City Z was built right on top of the Monster Association. If he accidentally collapsed the underground tunnels, City Z would likely be destroyed along with them. Now is the chance. Monster King Orochi, Hellfire Flame, Gale Wind, and Guketsu launched their attacks simultaneously. Countless dragon-headed tentacles with gaping maws traced arcs through the void, surrounding King from all directions. Air-warping flames erupted from them, and energy beams swept toward him instantly. Gale Wind and Hellfire Flame used their extreme speed, flashing behind King in an instant, launching 2 devastatingly sharp slashes. Look behind you, King. Guketsu bent his knees, then shot up like a compressed spring. His massive fist, carrying a violent gale, smashed viciously toward King's small figure. In a split second, King, who had just dispelled the energy storm, was under attack from three sides simultaneously. In this moment, King fought 4 dragons alone. Facing this, all 4 monsters felt a sudden unease. Something's wrong. Why is he so calm? Bad news. King's reaction was too calm, as if he wasn't the one being attacked from all sides. In the next second, blue steam exploded instantly. King vanished from his spot at a speed invisible to the naked eye, reappearing behind Gale Wind in Hellfire Flame. How about you look behind you? What? The pupils of the 2 ninjas constricted sharply. Their sharp blades slashed empty air. Before they could even react, fists the size of sandbags were smashing toward their faces. Gale Wind's face changed drastically. Without hesitation, he snapped his own neck with a crisp crack, barely allowing his face to graze past King's fist. But Hellfire Flame beside him wasn't so lucky. Although he tried his best to dodge, King's fist was faster than he imagined. Boom! 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 113, Chapter 114, Since When Did I Need a Human's Pity? 918 words. Chapter 114, Since When Did I Need a Human's Pity? King's fist landed squarely on Hellfire Flame's head. Boundless, berserk power instantly flooded his brain. Splat! With a dull, wet explosion, Hellfire Flame's head burst like a ripe watermelon. Red and white matter splattered everywhere. His body, honed to perfection for ultimate speed, stiffened instantly before collapsing lifelessly to the ground. Hellfire! Damn it! Gale Wind, seeing his partner's head exploded in a single punch, was so terrified that he snapped his voluntarily broken neck back into place, staring in disbelief. In this moment, fear outweighed the grief of losing his companion. Too fast. That speed completely crushes ours. Is this guy really human? Just then, Goketsu arrived in front of King. His massive fist created an ear-piercing sonic boom as it tore through the air. A strike combining martial arts technique and monstrous brute force aimed straight at the strongest man on Earth. Daring to be distracted by those two while facing my attack? You are looking down on me, Goketsu. Die. Monster Calamity God Slayer Fist. Just as Goketsu's fist was less than half a meter from King's face, the fierce wind blowing his golden hair back, the strongest man on Earth finally looked up. HM? Where did this ugly thing come from? Rather than Goketsu's full power strike, the first thing King noticed was his ugly face covered in red eyes. With a casual punch, King shattered Goketsu's armored arm into a mist of blood. Goketsu was sent flying backward like a meteor, smashing deep into the rock wall. After punching Goketsu away, King spun around again. He threw several punches at the thousands of flames spewing from Monster King Orochi. Instantly, the air in front of him compressed into solid shockwaves, crushing the sky-filling firestorm and extinguishing it mid-air. In less than 5 seconds, King effortlessly neutralized the simultaneous attacks of 4 dragon-level powerhouses without breaking a sweat. Embedded in the rock wall, Goketsu caused massive rocks to fall with every movement. His eyes were filled with shock. Why are humans this strong? More than the physical pain, the mental trauma hurt Goketsu more. Facing his full power strike, the human called King cared not about the power of the attack, but about how ugly he was. For a martial artist pursuing ultimate strength and striving for the peak, this was the greatest insult imaginable. Imagine dreaming of becoming a world-class scientist, studying desperately, climbing from bachelor's to master's to PhD. Day after day, your hair falls out, and your hormones go haywire, making you fat. But you firmly believe your academic pursuit is correct. Until one day, you meet someone acclaimed as the world's top scholar. After a passionate speech about your work, his first sentence isn't praise for your research, but, "Where did you get such a big stomach? Did you swallow a pillow? Hi. This is too much." Goketsu let out a furious roar. His massive 6-meter frame exploded with power, pulling himself out of the rock wall. His legs stomped against the wall, shattering nearly 100 meters of rock behind him. Launching himself like a cannonball at King, he raised his remaining left arm. A martial artist's dignity cannot be insulted. Today, I will make you experience the ultimate martial arts of monsters. Monster Calamity God Slayer Fist. Hearing the deafening roar, King covered one ear with a hand. His raised right hand burst with blinding golden light. Please. We're fighting here. Stop screaming. Who are you shouting for? Despite the casual complaint, King gave Guketsu's full power attack a sliver of respect. For someone who challenged the legendary monster King Orochi in pursuit of martial arts, only to be beaten into submission and turned into a monster, King didn't hold complete contempt. He could have ended it with a casual punch, but now, King decided to give Guketsu a dignified end. Endless golden light gathered in his right fist, forming a dazzling miniature sun in the blink of an eye. He met Guketsu's black aura-wreathed fist head-on. Imperial Fist. The moment they collided, an invisible shockwave swept wildly in all directions from their bodies. In the next second, with a crisp shattering sound, Guketsu's left arm was destroyed with crushing force. The violent golden energy surged upward through his body. Guketsu froze. In the split second before death, his dozens of eyes stared simultaneously at King, as if trying to etch this human's face into his soul. So humans can be this strong. If I'm not mistaken. King used martial arts just now. Moreover, Guketsu realized that the special fist technique King used was a level above his own monster Calamity God Slayer fist. In their two exchanges, Guketsu wasn't just crushed in power, the martial arts technique on his fist was neutralized by an even more profound skill. As a dragon-level executive, Guketsu wasn't stupid. In their brief clash, he sensed that King surpassed him in every stat. Despite being able to crush him with raw stats, King still used martial arts. That explained everything. Really now? Since when did I need a human's pity? Guketsu sighed helplessly in his heart. He watched as cracks spread rapidly across his body, and then he exploded into a mist of blood, dissipating into the world. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 114, Chapter 115, Oops, I didn't hold back enough. 1046 words. Chapter 115, Oops, I didn't hold back enough. The moment his consciousness faded, Guketsu felt like he was sinking into the dark depths of an endless sea. All he could feel was cold and silence. Is this death? In his blurred consciousness, a young man appeared before his eyes. Muscular, radiating confidence, wearing a clean martial arts gi. Guketsu felt an inexplicable familiarity. Who is he? Why is he in my memories? It took a full second or two for Guketsu to remember. That man was him, or rather, the human self that his current monster form had forgotten. Once, Guketsu was the champion of the super fight tournament, enjoying limitless glory, hailed by many as the #1 martial artist of the younger generation. Back then, he was supremely confident in his strength, believing he could continue climbing the peaks of martial arts to become even stronger. Until that day. He met the legendary monster, the creature that still made him shudder. A colossal body, a terrifying face resembling a dragon or serpent, and cold eyes devoid of any human emotion. Monster King Orochi. Yet, even facing such a terrifying monster, even as every cell in his body trembled, the human Guketsu still unleashed his signature move. That day, Guketsu felt his own weakness. His proud ultimate move was effortlessly blocked by a single tentacle. His body, honed through years of martial arts training, couldn't withstand a casual slap from the monster and was instantly brought to the brink of death. When the pulsing monster cell fell into the dirt before him, Guketsu wavered. He didn't waver in his martial arts conviction, but in his identity as a human. Can humans really defeat such terrifying monsters? Can humans really reach the pinnacle of martial arts? Can humans truly avoid extinction in the face of such creatures? Harboring these doubts, Guketsu ultimately chose to swallow the pulsating monster cell, abandoning his humanity. He didn't want to die. He would rather discard his human identity than face death. Only by living could he continue to climb. Death meant nothingness. But King's appearance made this dragon-level executive, who had forsaken his humanity, realize for the first time that humans could be this strong. Perhaps, my choice back then was wrong. With that thought, all the monster cells in Guketsu's body lost their vitality, and his consciousness faded completely. Witnessing a dragon-level executive like Guketsu explode in a single punch, Gale Wind, who was flickering through the air, was dumbfounded. Doubt rose in Gale Wind's heart. If this guy really is human, then didn't we, who abandoned our human bodies to become monsters just for speed, act like total idiots? But there was no time to think. Seeing King's gaze turn toward him, Gale Wind felt every monster cell in his body screaming, urging him to run. Without hesitation, Gale Wind flicked his wrist. He threw his razor-sharp blade, turning it into a streak of light aiming for King's face. He himself turned and ran, unleashing all his secret ninja techniques. His body became a blur, vanishing instantly. Nothing matters more than survival. His partner, Hellfire Flame, had already been punched into a headless corpse. If he didn't run, he would follow in his footsteps. Throwing my weapon as a distraction and combining it with my ultimate speed, my survival ability is maxed out. Monsterification, full power. 20 Flash Burial, full power. Dense green patterns spread across Gale Wind's skin. His body transformed rapidly, becoming grotesque, but his speed skyrocketed again. His legs moved in a bizarre rhythm. His incredible speed created 20 afterimages running forward in midair simultaneously, making it impossible to distinguish the real body. In this state, Gale Wind was confident that not even Monster King Orochi could catch him, nor could King, the strongest man on Earth. Unfortunately, ideals are beautiful, but reality is harsh. Hearing the piercing sonic boom behind him, Gale Wind turned his head and saw the most terrifying sight imaginable. A figure wreathed in blue steam was sprinting at a speed almost invisible to the naked eye. In a blink, he was right beside him. King threw a single punch. The space in front of him twisted layer by layer, instantly blowing up all of Gale Wind's clones on the left side. Holy SHT**. Gale Wind was scared out of his wits. Disregarding the strain on his body, he forcibly burst with even greater speed. Even if he tore every muscle in his body afterward, he didn't care. But the most despairing scene played out right before his eyes. Facing Gale Wind's ultimate speed, King didn't even run seriously. He used psychokinesis to float in midair, assuming a lazy, side-lying posture, like a predator toying with its weak prey. Stopping on your own? Are you kidding me? Gale Wind's eyes were filled with bloodshot veins. His mental state was on the verge of collapse. But no matter how desperately he increased his speed, King followed him like a ghost, inseparable. 10 seconds later, seeing Gale Wind about to reach the surface, King shook his head helplessly. A pity. If your speed increased another few dozen times, maybe I really wouldn't be able to catch you. As a thank you gift for playing tag with me for so long, I'll treat you to a punch. Saying this, King flashed directly in front of Gale Wind and threw a plain, ordinary punch. No. Gale Wind's eyes bulged. He quickly crossed his arms in front of his chest, trying to block King's fist. The moment they made contact, force violent to the extreme surged from his arms into his entire body. This dragon-level monster known for his speed didn't even have time to react before he exploded into a sky full of blood mist. King floated in midair, a faint green psychic barrier surrounding him, blocking the drifting blood mist. Looking at the spot where Gale Wind had been obliterated, King sighed with emotion. Really now? Haven't bullied noobs in so long. Oops, I didn't hold back enough. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 115, Chapter 116, was this part in the original? 980 words. Chapter 116, was this part in the original? By now, out of the 4 dragon-level monsters fighting King, only the strongest one remained, the dragon above Monster King Orochi. From start to finish, Monster King Orochi had only fired one wave of flames and then taken no further action, coldly watching as King slaughtered the other 3 dragon-level executives. King waved his hand to disperse the blood mist, finally landing his gaze on Orochi. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes. He had thought Orochi would intervene to preserve the Monster Association's combat power, but the Monster King hadn't lifted a finger. Especially when the energy storm was raging, King noticed that even when Joro was being torn to shreds, Orochi did nothing. This was clearly abnormal. At least on the surface, Joro was the Monster Association's most important strategist. As the leader, Orochi shouldn't have just watched him die. On a deeper level, Joro, or rather, Psychos, the controller behind Joro, was Orochi's creator. Orochi was merely her weapon. For a biological weapon to watch its creator die without attempting a rescue was undoubtedly suspicious. Just then, sensing King's gaze, Orochi's maw curled into an exaggerated grin, revealing layers of sharp teeth. He spoke. His voice was chaotic, sounding like a dozen people speaking at once, raspy and hiding extreme violence. King, as the strongest human on Earth, do you know why I chose not to act against you, but allowed you to slaughter my subordinates? Hearing Orochi's words, King recalled the contents of the original manga, and his expression grew serious. He knew why Orochi hadn't acted. As if to verify King's guess, dozens of dragon-headed tentacles behind Orochi writhed in the void, outlining a very abstract pattern. It was a twisted humanoid figure. Its face was unclear, but its entire body seemed composed of chaotic lines. On the surface, I am the king of the Monster Association, the strongest biological weapon created by Joro, or rather, that woman. That is what they believe. In reality, the true purpose of my creation is pathetic. As the strongest monster king, I am merely a sacrifice required for the descent of another higher being. To use your human terms, as Homeless Emperor said, the name of that higher being is God. I was born to be a sacrifice for God's descent. All my power will be devoured when he arrives. But I am unwilling. At this point, Orochi's snake-like pupils burst with murderous pale red light, seemingly filled with hatred for this so-called god. King understood this. Being hailed as the king of monsters, only to be destined as a sacrifice for some higher entity, no one would accept that. He didn't interrupt Orochi, letting him continue. After all, the original story was just a story, this was reality. Since King's transmigration, many events had deviated from the canon. When it came to God, he had to be cautious. God. King's heart sank. Although he knew that even God probably couldn't beat the bald demon, he wasn't sure if he could beat God. After various upgrades, his current strength was far greater than when he fought Boros, officially entering the threshold of God level. But even so, he had no confidence in challenging God. In any version of the original work, God never revealed his true strength, only granting power to others to fight for him. Especially Cosmic Fear Garu. King admitted he wasn't confident he could defeat that guy. At best, it would be a stalemate where neither could kill the other. If Cosmic Fear Garu was that powerful, then God, the one who granted him that power, must be the truly terrifying existence. Just then, Orochi seemed to sense something. The murderous rage in his eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a fleeting look of terror. His colossal body shuddered violently, then his gaze returned to indifference. His chaotic voice spoke again. You came at the right time. To avoid becoming a sacrifice, I need to capture a being as powerful as myself to offer instead. Only then can God descend. But... Orochi paused for a second, his tone revealing a hint of fanaticism. His altar is in the deepest part of the Monster Association. After observing for some time, I discovered God's weakness. He has become very weak. Either I or you, if one of us brings the flesh and blood of the other to the altar, we can summon God and enter the dimensional space where he exists. At that time, the weakened God will surely be unable to withstand my power. I will devour him and become the new God. And you, King, the strongest man on earth. You will be my nourishment. My capital to slay a god. Hearing this, King looked up in confusion. Watching Orochi gathering energy, his doubts grew, and a cloud of unease formed in his mind. Why don't I remember this part in the original? Since when did Monster King Orochi want to slay God? Forget it. Maybe it's another butterfly effect from my transmigration. Seeing Orochi eager to strike, King slowly lowered his body, pressing his center of gravity down. He took a step forward. In an instant, the space in front of him twisted into a spiral. King transformed into a streak of light, charging forward with vitality as vast as an ocean. He decided to strike first. Orochi refused to be outdone. His layered maws and the dozens of tentacles behind him opened simultaneously. Violent beams of crimson light erupted from his mouths. Gaia Cannon. In this moment, neither side wasted any more words. Both chose to attack simultaneously. -20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 116, Chapter 117, Complete Adaptation. 956 words. Chapter 117, Complete Adaptation. Meanwhile, deep underground. Damn it! What is going on? Inside a secret room insulated by special materials, a tall, voluptuous woman snapped her eyes open. Her glasses fell to the floor with a crisp thud. Her messy long hair draped over her waist, and her exquisitely beautiful face was now filled with terror and disbelief. She was the puppeteer behind Joro, the secret ruler of the Monster Association, and the creator of Monster King Orochi, Psychos. But at this moment, Psychos was bewildered and filled with a sense of impending doom. Why has the entire plan gone off the rails? What is happening? Recalling the last moment before her Joro puppet was torn apart by the energy storm, the cold, manic look in Monster King Orochi's eyes, she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. First, King, the strongest man on Earth, suddenly broke into the Monster Association and casually slaughtered all the mid-tier combat power. Unless something unexpected happened, the dragon-level executives were either dead or fled. King's strength far exceeded Psycho's imagination. She had initially thought that even the legendary strongest man on Earth could at most rival Monster King Orochi. Psycho's always had a mysterious confidence, just like she believed her psychokinesis could rival Tatsumaki's. She thought that with all the dragon-level executives attacking together, plus Orochi's power, even King would be forced to retreat with injuries. But the result was completely beyond her expectations. With a casual attack, King scared almost all the dragon-level executives into running away. As the secret controller of the Monster Association, Psychos had placed numerous clones, meat puppets, throughout the lair. Through their shared vision, she had witnessed the scenes above. After seeing the incredibly fast Gale Wind and Hellfire Flame get one shot, and Goketsu, whom she had high hopes for, get exploded by a single punch, she fell silent. It wasn't just shock at King's power. While watching, Psychos also confirmed the conjecture she was most unwilling to believe. 3 dragon-level monsters were killed, yet Monster King Orochi, the strongest being present, didn't move a muscle, watching coldly from the sidelines. As expected. Monster King Orochi has betrayed me. When did he start defying my will? As the ultimate biological weapon she created through countless experiments, Psychos thought she had complete control over Orochi, or at least enough to make him obey orders. But only now did she realize that Orochi had been pretending to obey her all along, while secretly plotting deeper goals. It wasn't until her clone transmitted all of Orochi's words back to her that Psychos finally understood. So that's it. Only in this moment did Psychos finally learn what Monster King Orochi's true objective was. Just then, the entire secret room began to shake violently. Rocks fell from above, and the ground trembled as if hit by a magnitude 10 earthquake. Psychos understood that this anomaly was caused by the battle between King and Orochi starting above. Her shared vision was cut off, she couldn't see anymore because the clones were destroyed by the aftershocks of their battle. Psychos raised a psychic shield to block the falling debris while running toward another secret base. As she ran, her beautiful brows furrowed tightly, her mind churning with thoughts. Wait, something feels wrong. Recalling the scene through her clone's eyes, staring at Orochi preparing to fight King, she felt something was off. Having been with Orochi for so long, she knew his aura was always on the chaotic, tyrannical side, and it almost never changed. But when he was speaking just now, Orochi's aura changed. It became cold, lofty, and detached. It was almost like a god. Gaia Cannon. After absorbing massive amounts of energy from the Earth's core, Monster King Orochi unleashed his strongest attack to date. A crimson beam of light swept across the entire underground cavern, destroying everything in its path. Facing this attack, King vanished with a flicker, reappearing right in front of Orochi. He was currently in the 7th gate, Gate of Wonder, state, choosing not to open the Gate of Death yet. For some reason, facing Orochi, a relatively weak dragon above Monster King, felt an ominous premonition. A strong person's intuition was usually worth trusting. Therefore, King chose to reserve his strength, avoiding any unforeseen attacks while in the weakened state that followed the Gate of Death. Just as he prepared to punch Orochi's head, Orochi reacted in time. Dozens of dragon-headed tentacles opened their maws, and violent flames instantly swallowed King's body. King could have dodged, but he chose to freefall in midair, allowing the massive flames to roast him continuously. Opening his eyes, all he saw was red. King felt as if he were in an ocean of fire, fierce tongues of flame licking his body. He dropped most of his defenses, letting the fire burn his skin, allowing it to carbonize at an extremely slow rate. This carbonization lasted less than 3 seconds before triggering a mechanism. King's skin stopped charring instantly, and brand new skin grew back at incredible speed. Against this new skin, the flames could no longer cause any damage. He had completely adapted to them. Is this the so-called adaptation? After sensing it briefly, King found that he felt closer to the fire now. In the endless sea of flames, he felt as comfortable as swimming in a pool, moving freely. The fire that previously felt slightly scorching now felt like a warm bath, soaking him comfortably from all sides. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 117, Chapter 118, Exploded in One Punch. 1036 words. Chapter 118, Exploded in One Punch. Monster King Orochi watched King disappear into his flames. Seeing no sign of him emerging, Orochi felt a twinge of doubt. According to common logic, most people would assume their opponent had been burned to ash and would stop attacking. But Monster King Orochi's logic and brain circuitry was different from most. Not good. It seems my flames have absolutely no effect on King, which is why he chose not to move. Thinking this, Orochi turned his head. A Gaia cannon wrapped in crimson flames fired directly into the sea of fire. The violent explosion twisted the very shape of the inferno. Holy crap! King, who had been enjoying the warmth of the flames, was startled by the sudden Gaia cannon to the face. He threw a reflexive punch. The Gaia cannon, containing destructive energy, was detonated by the punch. It was like someone had slashed a gas canister in half, instantly triggering a terrifying explosion. A figure wrapped in a stream of azure light emerged from the mushroom cloud soaring into the sky. There were a few fresh wounds on his body. These were merely superficial flesh wounds. Normally, King would use extreme regeneration to heal instantly, but this time, he chose not to. He suppressed his regenerative ability, feeling the stinging pain from the wounds and the wondrous changes occurring within his body. In just a few seconds, the injuries began to heal naturally. There was no flash of green light, meaning King hadn't used his active healing skill. Monster King Orochi noticed this anomaly as well. A fierce light flashed in his eyes as he opened his gaping maw again. Stop playing tricks. Dozens of tentacles behind him stabbed into the ground simultaneously, frantically absorbing energy from the earth. A constantly compressing and restructuring Gaia cannon formed in his mouth once more. Boom! The energy sphere, compressing and expanding rapidly, burst forth. It bombarded King's body at extreme speed, and a violent explosion swept through the entire underground space again. If King hadn't set up numerous peak dragon-level energy barriers in the soil layers above beforehand, City Z would likely have suffered an unprecedented earthquake. After all, having an energy bomb comparable to a nuclear explosion go off right under your feet is like filling a normal house with TNT. Anyone not blown sky-high on the spot would be considered a legendary stroke of luck. But this time, alarm bells rang loudly in Monster King Orochi's mind. He finally realized something was wrong. Inside that violent explosion, a tall human figure floated quietly in mid-air. He made no defensive movements, maintaining a posture with his arms crossed, as if the power of the explosion didn't bother him at all. Are you kidding me? That was the Gaia cannon. Even Monster King Orochi felt a sense of absurdity at this moment. As the king of monsters, his strongest attack couldn't cause any damage to King. The opponent didn't even bother to defend. Just as Orochi was bewildered, the figure inside the explosion slowly raised his right hand and waved it sharply to the side. In an instant, a gale seemed to sweep through the underground space. The expanding, exploding energy was dispersed by an irresistible force, turning into thousands of particles of light and vanishing into the air. King's figure was clearly revealed before Orochi. He was covered in a layer of crimson armor made of solidified vitality, obscuring his body and leaving only his head exposed. The purpose of this crimson armor wasn't defense, of course. It was because Orochi's Gaia cannon had burned King's clothes to ash. That's right. After just 2 rounds of attacks, King had thoroughly adapted to Monster King Orochi's power. Even the strongest attack, the Gaia cannon, could no longer harm him. Feeling the changes occurring in his body again, King couldn't help but clench his fist. Majestic power flowed through his meridians. So this is adaptive nature. What a terrifying adaptation ability. It only took 2 hits to nullify all attacks from a dragon-above monster like Orochi. Now then, it's time to end this. Under Orochi's shocked gaze, King stepped on the void. Accompanied by the twisting and vibration of space, his body turned into a streak of light shooting upward. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Orochi. Dozens of tentacles wove together, turning into living ropes to block King's path, spewing a sea of crimson fire at him. However, King didn't even bother to defend. He simply raised his fist while charging forward. Something incredible happened before Orochi's eyes. The flames he released seemed to act like King's subjects, consciously parting to create a path of fire for this human to pass through. Realizing his tentacles couldn't stop King at all, Orochi made a desperate move. He stabbed all his tentacles into the ground again, frantically draining the earth's power. Damn it! Faster! Just a little more. Orochi opened his maw, lined with layers of sharp teeth. A concentrated Gaia cannon formed in his mouth. Damn it! Too late. The Gaia cannon wasn't even half-formed when King arrived in front of him. That fist, tiny compared to Orochi's colossal body, was right before his eyes. It was a plain, ordinary-looking punch. No flashy special effects, no berserk vitality, no energy shining like the sun. Just a punch. King had concentrated all his energy inside his body. The power of the Imperial Fist was fully internalized, making it far stronger than when it bloomed outward like a sun. The moment they made contact, Monster King Orochi's indestructible, massive body melted away like snow meeting a blazing sun. Cracks spread across his surface, then expanded rapidly. Boom! Accompanied by an explosive sound, Monster King Orochi's body shattered on the spot. A sky full of severed limbs and intensely concentrated life energy exploded outward. Monster King Orochi, the king of the Monster Association, was exploded by King with a single punch. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 118, Chapter 119, Let Me See. 957 words. Chapter 119, Let Me See. City Z. A bald man in casual pajamas lay ungracefully on a floor cushion, sipping cola while watching the day's TV program. What are you even saying? Bang Kai. Seeing the main character selectively go deaf again, completely ignoring the villain's long speech to unleash his ultimate move and slash, Saitama nodded in approval. That's how it should be. In other anime, they always rely on talk no jutsu. Ichigo Kurosaki is fierce, just slash on sight, don't listen to a word the enemy says. Suddenly, he sat up, staring at the floor with a slightly dull expression. Why does it feel like the floor is vibrating? Is it an earthquake? Saitama pressed his ear to the floor, his expression instantly becoming serious. His simple, doodle-like face transformed into sharp, angular features. Serious listening. In an instant, Saitama's hearing expanded, picking up every movement underground with crystal clarity. Monster King. Gaia Cannon. Strongest man on Earth. Huh? Strongest man on Earth? Saitama paused for a second before realizing. Wait, isn't that King? Great. I was wondering why King disappeared when he went out to buy snacks. Turns out he went underground to secretly fight monsters without me. Since he was bored anyway, Saitama changed into his classic yellow hero suit. He leaped from the balcony and landed lightly on the ground. I'd better go down and check. Otherwise, if King and that Monster King fight too hard, they might accidentally demolish my apartment building. After all, King's apartment is right above mine. Saitama jogged over to a manhole cover, tossed the heavy steel lid aside like it was cardboard, and jumped in, disappearing into the dark sewer tunnel. Meanwhile, Monster Association Cavern. Monster King Orochi's shattered head fell through the air. Even in the moment of impending death, his eyes held no fear or despair. Instead, there was a deeply hidden excitement. How could this be? As the king of monsters, why could my strongest attack not harm you in the slightest? And you didn't even seem to defend. Before his consciousness faded, the question Orochi cared about most was why King could effortlessly block all his attacks. He could sense that King wasn't relying on pure defense, it felt as if his attacks were being adapted to. King didn't answer Orochi's question. Instead, he threw another punch, blasting the already shattered head into dust. Asking so many questions when you're about to die. King muttered a complaint, then waved his hand. Psychokinesis swept up the rest of Orochi's broken body, twisting it into a pretzel. After doing this, he used his psychokinesis to probe, extracting Orochi's life essence from the meat chunks. It landed precisely in his hand. Done. Now, it's time to meet this so-called god. King held Orochi's life essence in his right hand. His left hand rotated in the void, gathering the countless fragments of Orochi's flesh and forcibly compressing them into a crimson meatball that floated behind him. The ground beneath his feet crumbled continuously as King descended straight down, quickly reaching the deepest part of the Monster Association underground. The deepest level was surprisingly vast, likely built to accommodate Orochi's colossal size. In the center of this wide underground space stood an ancient, circular altar, emitting a dim light. Strange, my spiritual perception can't detect the altar? Even though the light in the underground space was dim, for someone at King's level, spiritual perception could replace sight. But for some reason, when his spiritual perception extended toward the altar, it vanished without a trace, like light entering a black hole. King raised his hand. The surrounding energy responded to his call, gathering rapidly in his palm to form a dazzling golden sphere of light, bright as the sun. With the illumination of the light sphere, he could clearly see the entire altar. It appeared to be a simple stone altar emitting a dim, eerie glow. Murals were carved into the walls surrounding the altar. King stood outside the altar, examining the murals. A giant creature with many heads, resembling a dragon or serpent, lay on the ground. Beside it, countless tiny humans were kneeling in worship. However, according to the mural, these tiny humans weren't worshipping the giant creature. And the creature wasn't sleeping, it was curled up in terror. In front of both the creature and the human stood a humanoid figure composed of countless twisted lines, looking down indifferently at the beings below. Upon seeing the twisted humanoid figure, King suddenly felt dizzy. Although the dizziness lasted only for a split second, it put him on high alert. To think just a mural could affect the current me. Is this the power of God? However, after today, there will be no more gods in this world. King remembered Orochi's words clearly. He has become very weak. Either I or you, if one of us brings the flesh and blood of the other to the altar, we can summon God and enter the dimensional space where he exists. At that time, the weakened God will surely be unable to withstand my power. I will devour him and become the new God. God Slayer, ha! King extended his hand. The meatball formed from Orochi's flesh, held by psychokinesis, floated forward and landed in his palm. Then, King adjusted his aura to its peak. Aside from not opening the gate of death directly, he was currently in his strongest state. Then let me see what this so-called God really is. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 119, Chapter 120, You Never Belong to This World. 1018 words. Chapter 120, You Never Belong to This World. King carried the life essence and all the flesh of Monster King Orochi, stepping onto the altar one step at a time. The moment he crossed the threshold, the originally dim light erupted instantly. Orochi's life essence and flesh vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. What? King's pupils constricted slightly. He could sense that the energy bursting from the altar was unlike any form of energy he had encountered so far. This energy wasn't spiritual energy like psychokinesis, nor was it physical power like vitality. It was a twisted, chaotic energy, like a color mixed from countless others. In the blink of an eye, the light from the altar spiraled into a cylindrical shape. A colossal blue beam of light shot upward, ignoring the thick rock layers, piercing straight into the heavens. This beam penetrated the rock strata, the surface, the city, and the atmosphere, shooting straight into the boundless depths of space. At this moment, no matter where they were or what they were doing, every human felt a sudden palpitation in their soul. This spiritual tremor made them instinctively look toward City Z, where they saw the blue beam that seemed to bridge heaven and earth. Oh my God! What is that? Is it a demonstration of new technology? Or some kind of movie special effect? Are you stupid? The internet is blowing up right now. This is clearly some kind of special omen. It doesn't look like anything humans could create. Whoa! It's God! Protect your people. Some were shocked, some confused, some wept, and some watched indifferently. But without exception, everyone dedicated 100% of their attention to this blue beam. Perhaps they didn't even realize it themselves, but their minds were completely drawn in, as if something was attracting their focus. Deep in the starry sky, dozens of planets that seemed to have been placed there long ago began to move, arranging themselves into a bizarre pattern resembling a twisted spiral. An invisible fluctuation radiated through the vast, lonely cosmos, spreading along the beam of light and plunging precisely into Earth. Deepest part of the Monster Association underground. King stood within the blue beam. His physical body was gradually being dissolved by the continuously erupting chaotic energy, his incredibly tough flesh melted slowly like butter. Yet, despite suffering such damage, King's expression remained unmoved. Green light flashed continuously over his body, restoring his melting form in less than 0.1 seconds. Moreover, his body was constantly adapting to the damage caused by the chaotic energy. In just a few more seconds, he would be able to swim in it. However, the master of the chaotic energy seemed to notice this as well. King's vision blurred, and he vanished from the altar instantly. When he opened his eyes again, the scene before him left him stunned. Floating lines were everywhere. Looking closely, one would discover that these floating lines were timelines of lives. The entire world presented a state of chaos and disorder. Countless shattered celestial bodies and stars constantly appeared and vanished, with the dark, lonely cosmic sky serving as the backdrop. And in the very center of deep space, an immensely colossal humanoid being sat cross-legged. This humanoid seemed composed of countless twisted, chaotic lines and flesh. It merely outlined the shape of a human but possessed no hair or facial features. The moment he saw this entity, King recognized its identity through its unique appearance. God! So this is the dimensional space where you exist? It looks pretty cool. I didn't expect a god to decorate their space like this. King spoke first. This was a sincere compliment. In his opinion, the dimensional space god created was filled with mystery and oppression. Honestly, it was cool as hell. Sensing King speak, God slowly lowered his head. His boundless body looked down at King floating in deep space, his voice ethereal and vast. Among humans who have reached god level, aside from that bald head who transcends worldly rules, and that human capable of using space, you are the only one. Hearing this, King was amused. The bald head who transcends worldly rules, isn't that the bald demon Saitama? As for the human capable of using space, that must be Blast, the S-Class rank 1 hero. In the manga remake, Blast's ability was set as spatial manipulation, and his true combat power could even briefly suppress cosmic fear Garu, who had just received God's power. So, if I'm not mistaken, you really are very weak. Otherwise, with the grandeur you display, you would have personally invaded the human world long ago. Why hide in the shadows like a rat in the sewer? Every word King spoke carried a tone of sarcasm, but he was also secretly fishing for information. Hearing King's words, God did not deny it. He raised his right hand. 2 stars in the dimensional space flew over, shrinking as they traveled, finally appearing as 2 spheres in his palm. You guessed correctly. I cannot directly invade this planet. I can only transmit my power to its natives, letting them become my messengers in the mortal world. But this is not because I am weak, but because I cannot invade. My power cannot enter that world. Do you know why I want to invade this resource-poor, barren planet? God seemed to have not spoken to anyone for a long time and wanted to indulge in a monologue. The reason is simple. That planet houses an existence that transcends the rules, and that existence has materialized into a human living on the planet. That human has some connection with you. He is Saitama, with whom you are close. As for you? At this point, God's originally vast and magnificent voice suddenly carried a barely imperceptible emotion, his tone turning cold. Stow away. You never belonged to this world. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 120, Chapter 121, What a Disgusting Guy. 1020 words. Chapter 121, What a Disgusting Guy. God's tone carried a trace of anger. The surrounding stars began to orbit at extreme speeds, swirling around him. Hearing this, King suddenly laughed, a laugh of sheer disbelief. Excuse me? I'm the stowaway? You're the one hiding in the dark shadows like a sewer rat, secretly invading worlds, and you have the nerve to mock me? I don't know where you get the face to say that. Oh, wait, you don't even have a face. This sharp barrage of words fired out like a machine gun. God, who had just shown a hint of anger, suddenly froze, caught off guard by the relentless mockery. Although his mouth was unforgiving, King felt a shock in his heart. Stow away. It seems God knows I'm a transmigrator. I just don't know if he can sense the system. Insignificant human. You dare blaspheme God. God's furious voice exploded in the desolate, dark cosmic space. The sky full of stars took shape behind him, and a blinding burst of cosmic rays erupted from his palm, blanketing the area and locking down every inch of King's position. In King's perception, this power was terrifying to the extreme. Even in his 8-gate state, he couldn't match it. However, facing such a terrifying attack, King simply stood with his hands in his pockets. His calm eyes stared disdainfully at the enraged god before him. How pathetic. Has the so-called god reached the point of bluffing? In the next second, countless stars collided at King's location. A sky-filling burst of cosmic rays bombarded the massive sphere formed by the stars, and an explosion containing massive amounts of celestial debris echoed through the entire dimensional space. But immediately after, King walked slowly out of the explosion, completely unharmed. He was wreathed in crimson armor radiating surging power, his golden hair flowing in the cosmic wind. What? For the first time, God felt shock. I am in my own domain, yet I still cannot obliterate this human? Refusing to believe it, he reached out again. The surrounding space shattered like a mirror hit by a stone, thousands of cracks appearing instantly. King's body also shattered into pieces like a reflection. However, no blood splattered. King stepped out of the shattered space again, his expression as calm as ever. If this is all you have, then you really might get killed. And in the very next instant, King's aura skyrocketed several times over. The pale blue steam around him abruptly turned blood red, swaying like a raging fire. 8 inner gates, 8th gate of death open. Without hesitation, the moment King opened the gate of death, he transformed into a red streak of light shooting upward. Boosted by his current stats, a crimson dragon nearly 10,000 meters long roared into existence in the dimensional space, twisting space in its wake as it charged toward the high and mighty god. Night Guy. Facing a god of unknown strength, and in the opponent's home territory, King held nothing back. He opened with his strongest killing move. God sat cross-legged in the center of the starry sky, watching the roaring crimson dragon. Although he had no facial features, King could sense disdain on his face. Just a false creature condensed from massive internal energy. The true power is concentrated within the body. A barely passable move, but against a god, human ultimate moves are useless. Space division. The space in front of God fluctuated violently. The originally smooth space was instantly divided into tens of thousands of different segments, layered in front of King. Boosted by majestic vitality, the Crimson Dragon ignored all obstacles. The spatial barriers blocking the way shattered one after another like cheap glass. Finally, when all 10,000 layers of spatial barriers were destroyed, the originally 10,000-meter-long Crimson Dragon had been whittled down to less than 100 meters. The vitality faded, revealing King's figure. He frowned, staring intently at the lofty god. This was the first time, aside from the bald demon Saitama, that someone had withstood his Night Guy with their own power. Sensing King's attack stop, God sneered. His vast voice echoed through the space. This is my domain. No matter how powerful your attacks are, I can create infinite space for you to waste them on. How can mortal techniques harm a god? God pointed a finger. Thousands of spatial barriers instantly pressed down on King. Immediately, King felt as if he were carrying a mountain 10,000 meters high on his back. His spine bent slightly under the weight. The crimson vitality burning on his body surged against the wind, growing stronger. Wave after wave of terrifying power welled up from King's body. His bones creaked and cracked crisply, yet he forcibly straightened his back under this extreme pressure. You didn't choose to kill me here, but chose to suppress me. That only proves how weak you are right now. King's voice remained calm. The pressure on him was slowly lightening. Adaptive nature was constantly helping him adapt to the spatial suppression. Sensing the anomaly in King, God showed no surprise. He raised his hand, and dozens of compressed planets drifted from the depths of the cosmos, all pressing down on King. Even more terrifying pressure descended. King's pupils constricted sharply. His bones began to crack inch by inch, and even his flesh showed signs of being crushed. Facing such danger, extreme regeneration constantly repaired the damage to King's body, while adaptive nature allowed him to adapt to the pressure continuously. Under this level of stimulation, the limiter inside King began to loosen, and his strength continued to rise. Realizing King was still getting stronger, God, who should have remained high above it all, felt a long-lost emotion. What a troublesome fellow. Cannot be killed, and gets stronger while sealed. I don't know where you got so many disgusting abilities from outside this world. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega is. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 121, Chapter 122, Whether He Can Be of Any Use. 1023 words. Chapter 122, Whether He Can Be of Any Use. In that case, I understand. God was God after all. Having observed countless lifeforms from a higher dimension, he quickly came up with a countermeasure for King. As the sole ruler of this entire dimensional space, God could manipulate not only space but also time at will. This was shown in the original manga as well. Cosmic Fear Garu, after receiving God's power, could reverse time using his martial arts. If Garu, who only received a portion of God's power, could do it, then the original God could certainly do more. Although he couldn't project his power directly into reality yet, controlling time and space within this dimension under his control was effortless. God's idea was simple. Since I can't kill you, I'll just accelerate your time by thousands or millions of times and let you die of old age on the spot. Problem solved. In his view, no matter how powerful a human was, they were ultimately mortal beings with finite lifespans. He was merely using the power of time to bring that end forward. With a thought, the flow of time in the area where King stood accelerated countless times. The stars suppressing him began to flicker and die out at a visible rate. However, despite the wash of time's power, King seemed completely unaffected by the passage of time. Instead, the rate at which he grew stronger accelerated several times, and the speed at which he broke through the seal increased. God was dumbfounded. Looking at King's visibly skyrocketing strength, he hurriedly cancelled the time acceleration, his voice filled with disbelief. What is happening? Why are you immune to time acceleration? Or rather, how can you reduce the effect of time acceleration to such a degree? Logically speaking, since this human had entered his dimensional space, he should be subject to the jurisdiction of space and time in this area and be manipulated at will. Unless, there is an even more mysterious power hidden within him, nullifying my time acceleration. No. Impossible. God rejected his own conjecture. Not because he couldn't imagine it, but because he didn't dare to. If he, a higher dimensional being, couldn't detect the existence of that mysterious power, it would mean that power's rank was far above his own. Time acceleration doesn't work. What about reversing time? God manipulated the flow of time around King again, deciding to reverse it constantly. If he let King continue to adapt to the pressure and breakthrough, his strength would grow faster and faster. To prevent King from becoming stronger, God decided to place a shackle of time reversal on him. Even if his strength progressed madly, time reversal would revert him to his previous state. Instantly, King felt his movements turn into slow motion. Except for his normal perception of the surroundings, all his bodily functions slowed down. Regeneration, adaptation, and the rate of strengthening all slowed down. Successfully delaying King's time, God felt no joy. Instead, he subconsciously took a step back. Why? Why does the power of time have almost no effect on you? I intended to reverse your time continuously. Why can I only delay it? Realizing that none of his current methods could deal with King effectively, God dropped the pretense. He raised his hand, and countless more stars crashed down, pinning King firmly in place. King couldn't speak anymore. His entire body was bearing terrifying pressure, but his aura continued to rise. Adaptive nature was making him increasingly capable of withstanding this pressure, granting him a body tough enough to bear it. But the rate of strengthening was several times slower than before because God had placed the shackle of time dilation on him. In other words, King would still continue to get stronger and eventually adapt to the pressure to break free. This was a predetermined outcome. But God only needed to suppress him. Until King broke through the pressure and escaped, this was his time. Speaking of which, I must thank you. If you hadn't thrown that delicious sacrifice, Orochi, directly onto the altar, I wouldn't have gained so much power to invade reality. Perhaps you already guessed. That's right. The monster King Orochi who spoke to you earlier wasn't himself. I had already replaced his will and used his body to converse with you. Although I don't know where you learned of my traces, all signs indicate that you knew of the existence of a higher-level god in this world. For the safety of humanity, as a hero, you would inevitably come personally to slay the unstable factor, the weakened god. I exploited this very fact to successfully lure you into this dimensional space and gain a portion of power sufficient to invade reality. Without you, think about it. In that world, what human can stop my invasion? Admit it. You can only watch helplessly as this world falls into my grasp. Hearing God's long speech, especially the last sentence, King managed to smirk despite the immense pressure. Anyone else? Did you forget a certain bald guy? According to God's own words, the bald demon was an existence that transcended rules, someone even God didn't dare provoke directly. Even without King in the outside world, as long as Saitama was there, all crises were non-issues. Just then, God sneered, as if piercing through King's thoughts. You're probably thinking that since that bald human who transcends the rules exists on that planet, I am not qualified to invade. Very well. I will let you see whether the bald human you place your hopes on can be of any use. With that, a massive screen appeared in front of King. The image displayed Saitama jumping down into the sewers. From within the dimensional space, God simply swiped his hand across the void. The space of the sewer tunnel was refilled instantly, extending its length to several thousand meters. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 122, Chapter 123, The Mobius Strip. 1020 words. Chapter 123, The Mobius Strip. But after thinking about it, God suddenly felt that a few thousand meters of tunnel might be too short. Although he had set a trap at the end, this bald human was a special existence who transcended the rules. One could never be too careful. With that thought, God exerted his power again. The tunnel, originally thousands of meters long, stretched endlessly. Twisting and merging in spatial dimensions, it formed a three-dimensional shape resembling the infinity symbol. A Mobius strip. In other words, unless Saitama actively broke the pipe, he would fall infinitely in this dark sewer tunnel. Immediately after, chaotic colors erupted from God's body. An immensely powerful force extended from the altar, affecting the space in reality. In the depths of the distant universe, under the influence of God's power, a one-way spatial channel was constructed, enveloping the entire infinite loop of the sewer tunnel. This way, if Saitama got tired of the infinite loop and broke the pipe, he would be instantly teleported into deep space. Seeing this, even King, who had confidence in the bald demon's strength, secretly cursed. In a head-on clash of strength, Saitama wouldn't lose to anyone. But against these underhanded tricks, an unguarded Saitama had a high probability of falling for it. Meanwhile, a certain bald man was extremely confused. Saitama frowned as he looked down into the seemingly endless dark pipe. He had been in freefall the whole time. His white cape snapped in the wind, and his bald head glowed faintly even in the darkness. This isn't right. I've been falling for at least 10 minutes. Why haven't I hit the bottom? Are sewers built this long nowadays? Whatever. A city is huge, after all. Maybe the sewer system is super advanced. A tunnel several thousand or even 10,000 meters long isn't impossible. I'll wait a few more minutes. Saitama considered punching the pipe apart, but he held back. Damaging public property meant paying fines. Another 10 minutes passed. Seriously? Is this going to end? No sewer is this long. Even Saitama sensed something was wrong now. Although he had gradually lost his sharp judgment due to being too strong, he wasn't stupid. On the contrary, before losing his hair, Saitama was a university graduate and a salaryman. His IQ wasn't low. Although he had returned most of his physics knowledge to his teachers over the years, he still roughly remembered that free-falling for 20 minutes meant a depth of tens of thousands of meters at least. How can a sewer be this deep? Screech! With a toothacheing sound of metal tearing, Saitama spread his arms, grabbing the sides of the pipe, and stopped himself steadily in the middle. This is longer than any roller coaster I've ever ridden. Is this some kind of infinite loop? Recalling plots from manga he had read, the corner of Saitama's mouth curled up. If that's the case, the manga has already given me the solution. Stabilizing his body with one hand gripping the edge, he slowly raised his other hand and clenched it into a fist. Facing something that loops infinitely, just punch it until it explodes. Boom! 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 A plain, ordinary punch landed on the pipe wall. Berserk power erupted from the fist clad in the cheap red glove. The pipe didn't last 0.1 seconds before exploding. However, after smashing the pipe, Saitama didn't see the actual sewer system. Instead, a vast expanse of silvery white substance filled his vision. What is this? Mercury? Saitama examined it closely. The silvery white substance looked like semi-solid water, rippling on the surface, resembling the mercury he had seen in science books. Just touching it shouldn't require me to pay money, right? Saitama instinctively reached out but pulled his hand back. Forget it. What if it's some secret government property? If I touch it and have to pay damages, what then? Let's see if there's another way out. Boom! 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 After punching several dozen large holes in different spots, Saitama was confused. Why is the outside of the pipe surrounded by this silvery stuff everywhere? With no other choice, he steeled himself and reached out, touching the surface of the silvery ripples with his finger. In the next second, Saitama's vision changed abruptly. By the time he reacted, everything was different. The somewhat narrow pipe vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of starry sky. The silvery substance was gone, replaced by the darkness of the universe. Saitama was even more confused. Just as he was about to speak, a massive sense of suffocation hit him. He instinctively pinched his nose. Where the heck am I? He scanned his surroundings, his smooth face filled with a huge question mark. Wait. Where's Earth? Where's my giant Earth? As far as the eye could see, there was only darkness, with stars twinkling in the distant depths. Hiss, where is this? Saitama looked around but couldn't find the direction of Earth. Helplessly, he picked a random direction and assumed a breaststroke position. Zooming out, a bald man in a mustard-yellow jumpsuit, holding his breath, began swimming aimlessly in the vacuum of space. I feel like this direction suits my mood. Let's swim this way. Maybe I can find the solar system. Saitama briefly abandoned his super strength and activated his rarely used superintelligence, deciding not to aim for Earth directly. What I need to do is find the sun. If I can see the sun, finding the way back will be easy. Serious series, serious swimming. Saitama's expression turned serious. Every stroke of his limbs twisted the space around him. In the vacuum where there was no medium to push against, he forcefully stepped on space itself to propel himself forward. Most importantly, if one zoomed out further, they would be shocked to discover that the direction Saitama chose was actually correct. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 123, Chapter 124, Acting Personally. 1014 words. Chapter 124, Acting Personally. Dimensional Space. Although reluctant to believe it, King had to face the reality: the bald demon Saitama had truly been exiled. Bro! How did you turn into cars? King didn't believe that this level of exile could completely erase an existence that transcended rules like Saitama, but finding his way back to Earth from deep space would definitely take some time. Now, King himself was suppressed and shackled by time dilation. Although he could constantly adapt to the seal and grow stronger, the speed was painfully slow. In King's view, the beings currently capable of restraining God were almost non-existent. This time, humanity was truly facing a God-level disaster, a calamity bestowed by God himself. The only ones with a glimmer of hope to stop God were Blast, the S-Class Rank 1 hero, and his team. In the manga remake, Blast had disappeared because he and several other powerful, like-minded allies formed a team to silently stop God in other dimensional planes. Unless humanity faced extinction, Blast generally chose not to appear. But since this crisis involved God acting personally, Blast would surely appear to stop his actions. Watching Saitama being exiled into the cosmos on the screen, God approached King, maintaining his lofty attitude. That bald human you placed your high hopes on has been exiled into the universe, a full light year away from this world. You are powerless to reverse the situation. Perhaps you think that the human capable of using spatial abilities can turn the tide. If you think so, I only find you pitiful. You call yourself the strongest man on Earth, a hero of humanity. Today, I will let you witness with your own eyes how the world you swore to protect will be destroyed. As his voice fell, God spread his arms wide. Countless streams of fused chaotic energy erupted from his body. An ocean of mixed colors burst out of the dimensional space instantly. In reality, the ancient altar trembled violently. A colossal multicolored pillar of light shot from the ground into the sky. This immense energy fluctuation was immediately sensed by countless powerhouses. Disbelief filled their eyes, mixed with varying degrees of shock and terror. Are you kidding me? Ordinary people, weak in power, couldn't sense the true strength of the energy wave, they only felt inexplicable heart palpitations. But those with greater strength felt their souls shaken to the core. Every cell in their body screamed, heralding the arrival of death. Watching God display his divine might, King tried to exert force again, but the stars on his back kept him pinned down. His muscles and bones shattered and reformed constantly. For him, this was both a seal and a body tempering process. Under high-intensity pressure, King's body became stronger and stronger. His vitality, constantly suppressed and exploding again, became increasingly resilient. The next period of time depends entirely on you guys. I hope all of you together can hold the line. King felt helpless. He needed time to break the seal, and Saitama needed time to return from space. God had seized this window of opportunity, aiming to conquer the entire world with a blitzkrieg. I just don't know how this guy will invade. If he continued to act through proxies by granting power, humanity still had a sliver of hope to resist. After all, humanity possessed some dragon-above monsters such as Blast, S-Class Rank 1, and the Esper Queen, Tornado of Terror, S-Class Rank 2. But if God acted personally, King fell silent and redoubled his efforts to break the seal on his body. Then maybe this time, humanity really is facing its extinction. Meanwhile, outskirts of City Z. The lollipop and child emperor's mouth fell to the ground. He stared blankly at the multicolored pillar of light shooting into the sky, his pupils constricting sharply. He had come near City Z for a mission, only to witness the eruption of this light. Impossible. Energy fluctuations of this level. And the composition of the energy is extremely bizarre. What kind of monster released this? Without hesitation, he opened his backpack, taking out various precision instruments to analyze and measure the phenomenon. As the data appeared rapidly, Child Emperor's face grew paler. He looked at the analysis results in disbelief. Are you kidding me? Why can't it be measured? I can't even analyze the composition of the opponent's energy. What happened in City Z? Worry filled Child Emperor's heart, but then he froze. 3 powerful beings stationed in City Z flashed through his mind. The currently famous One Punch Man, the martial arts Grandmaster Silver Fong, S-Class Rank 3, and the strongest man on Earth, King. If these 3 are there, maybe the crisis in City Z can be resolved. With that thought, Child Emperor immediately livestreamed the scene to the Hero Association and informed them of the danger. The Hero Association's response was swift. After detecting that the energy level far exceeded dragon level, they immediately took appropriate countermeasures. They issued a summons to all S-Class heroes first thing and held a meeting to discuss the disaster level and civilian evacuation. Instantly, all S-Class heroes received the urgent notification to deploy to City Z. Metalbat saw the Crimson urgent summons, then looked at his little sister backstage giving him a thumbs up, preparing to go on stage for her speech. His face turned green. Why now of all times? Even though he was extremely reluctant, Metalbat had no thought of staying. He grabbed his bat, turned, and ran out of the venue. In a dimly lit laboratory, a middle-aged man with buck teeth suddenly looked up, his sharp gaze fixed on the dense pages of data in front of him. Emergency summons, huh? Child Emperor seems to have released a set of data. I'll analyze it first before deciding my next move. -20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 124, Chapter 125, Where is Humanity's Hope? 1012 words. Chapter 125, Where is Humanity's Hope? The buck-toothed man muttered to himself, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He was the powerful S-Class hero as mysterious as Blast, the second most enigmatic existence in the entire Hero Association, Metal Knight, Beaufoy. Few had seen his true face. Even Child Emperor had only once served as his assistant before parting ways. As the data uploaded by Child Emperor was fully analyzed, Metal Knight's expression grew cold, and his brows furrowed. To possess such a high level of energy. It seems I can't stay hidden this time. Metal Knight swiped his finger across the screen. Images of cool, high-tech mechanical units appeared on the massive display one after another. Even facing a crisis of this magnitude, I still have to keep an eye on the organization. Fine. I'll dispatch 30 dragon-level robots first. VRRRRRMMM. In a desolate wilderness, a massive rumbling sound echoed in all directions. A fissure thousands of meters long cracked open on the surface. Countless rocks fell into the sudden abyss, only to be blown out by a violent gale. The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out in the uninhabited forest. From the darkness of the fissure, 30 pairs of glowing red mechanical eyes revealed themselves. Target destination, City Z. Mission objective, investigate the source of the special energy, arrange for civilian safety, assist other Hero Association S-Class heroes in combat, and construct temporary shelters. Participants, 30 units. Dragon-level robots, serial numbers 15 to 45. Depart. 30 colossal robots, nearly 5 meters tall and equipped with advanced weaponry, flew out of the fissure. Their hard, silvery white shells glinted coldly in the sunlight. Boom! Rear thrusters erupted with scorching flames. The 30 dragon-level robots piloted by Metal Knight streaked across the sky, leaving silver trails as they shot straight for the distant City Z. Prison. Ha ha. Sonic baby, where are you? Don't let me catch you. In a large open yard, the muscular Puri prisoner was blindfolded with a thick black cloth, playing a game of tag with a beaming smile. Not far from him, Sonic's face was as dark as water. He gripped a sharp stone he had just picked up from the ground, his eyes burning with vengeful fury. Daring to expose your weakness to me so recklessly? You're completely looking down on me. Or do you think I'm helpless? These past few days, Sonic had been living a life worse than death, harassed daily by this perverted gay muscle man. It was endlessly annoying. If not for his extreme speed, which had become even faster after discarding certain things, Puri prisoner would have succeeded long ago. As the saying goes, what you can't get is always in turmoil, but what you have is often not cherished. Now, Puri prisoner was solely focused on Sonic. The other prisoners were practically banished to the Cold Palace, he only wanted to conquer the super-fast little darling. However, Sonic had no weapons, and conventional weapons couldn't hurt a monster like Puri prisoner with his impressive defense anyway. He had been forced to endure. In Sonic's heart, the priority of killing Puri prisoner had surpassed even Saitama and King. He was listed as a must-kill target. But now is a good chance. After spending time together, Pori Prisoner had let his guard down around Sonic. He even dared to blindfold himself to play this so-called tag game. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he missed this, he might never get another chance to kill this guy. Die! Sonic snorted coldly. His body turned into an afterimage and vanished, reappearing directly above Pori Prisoner. The sharp edge of the stone aimed straight at his skull. The ninja known for his patience now wore a savage grin. Veins pulsed on his face, filled with the excitement of impending revenge. Finally I can kill this guy. Just then, the S-Class emergency phone tucked in Pori Prisoner's back pocket vibrated violently. Oh! Pori Prisoner's expression changed. He waited for the vibration to finish before pulling it out, ripping off his blindfold in the process. Seeing this, Sonic's heart skipped a beat. He threw the stone into the air and kicked off at mid-air, using it as a fulcrum to leap away rapidly. A major reason he hadn't been able to kill Pori Prisoner these past few days was that he no longer dared to engage in close-quarters combat under normal circumstances. The psychological trauma left from before was too severe. Just recalling the feeling of being held in those arms made Sonic want to vomit. This intense physiological discomfort reduced his combat effectiveness by more than half. Damn it! Why did he take off the blindfold suddenly? While Sonic was bewildered, a look of determination flashed across Pori Prisoner's face. He grabbed his prison uniform and ripped it apart, revealing his rock-hard muscles. A trace of reluctance flashed in his eyes. Then, he leaped onto the prison wall, waving affectionately to the confused prisoners below, especially to Sonic. Goodbye, my babies. When I come back from this mission, I promise my love for you will triple. With that, Pori Prisoner jumped down without hesitation, rushing out of the prison and charging toward City Z. Although he didn't know exactly what had happened in City Z, he knew the Hero Association had classified this operation as a potential god-level disaster. He didn't know what kind of terror lay ahead, or if an S-Class hero at the bottom of the rankings like him could be useful, or even survive. He didn't know. If he died, his harem of darlings in the prison would leave him. Even facing such a heavy price, Pori Prisoner marched forward bravely. Because he was an S-Class hero. If even the S-Class heroes standing at the pinnacle of strength didn't dare to step forward, then where was humanity's hope? 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segiz. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 125, Chapter 126, Why are there more and more monsters in this world? 1014 words. Chapter 126, Why are there more and more monsters in this world? City Q, KEH haha. I am Flyman. I hated flies so much that I hunted them every day. But after squashing so many, people called me disgusting. In a fit of rage, I joined the Fly Clan. Now I have the compound eyes of a fly, the flight ability of a fly, and the power to spit acid that melts food. Tremble, pathetic humans. On the street corner, a man with a fly's head and 2 pairs of translucent wings on his back danced wildly, shouting excitedly. Run! It's a monster. EW. That monster is so ugly. Don't come near me. He smells sour and rotten, exactly like a dead fly. People scattered in terror, their eyes fixed on the grotesque flyman, not daring to stop for a second. Hearing the comments from the fleeing crowd, Flyman stopped his dance. Unparalleled rage replaced his excitement. His wings buzzed rapidly as he roared and charged forward. You damn bastards. Even now, you dare mock me? The one who called me ugly just now, get out here. I'll slaughter you right. Boom. A sharp claw mark flashed through the void. Flyman's words cut off abruptly. His compound eyes stared in disbelief at his own headless body, which was still spurting blood. Impossible. Flyman's headless corpse collapsed into a pool of blood. Beside him, a figure sat on all fours like a dog, wearing a fluffy white dog costume with a human face peeking out, looking completely calm. S-Class rank 12, Watchdog Man. Note, his rank might be different in this fanfic, usually rank 12. Seeing Watchdog Man kill the arrogant Flyman in one hit, the crowd erupted in excited cheers, showering him with sincere praise. Facing the praise, Watchdog Man remained expressionless, like a stone statue. He even lifted a hind leg to scratch his head nonchalantly. Just then, his costume vibrated. Watchdog Man checked the message on his S-Class emergency phone. After reading it, he didn't hesitate. He stood on his hind legs for a moment to survey the surroundings. Confirming no other monsters were around, Watchdog Man scratched his head again, then dropped to all fours and sprinted out of City Q like a dog. Although Watchdog Man usually refused to participate in most activities, solely guarding his territory of City Q. Now, in a moment of life and death for humanity, he knew what was right. He wanted to protect City Q, but he also wanted to protect humanity. If the nest is overturned, how can any eggs remain intact? All the S-Class heroes, no matter what they were doing, no matter where they were, no matter the danger ahead, resolutely embarked on the road to City Z. Not for any other reason, but because they bore the title of S-Class heroes. Possessing power far beyond others, they consciously shouldered the responsibility that came with that strength. They were humanity's trump card against powerful monster disasters, and humanity's last resort in desperate situations. Outskirts of City Z, Mountain Peak, inside the dojo. Bang stared at the multicolored pillar of light piercing the sky, his wrinkles deepening into canyons. His heart was heavy beyond measure. As one of the pinnacle martial artists, he could clearly feel the astonishing and terrifying power contained within that light pillar. Even with just a slight probing of his senses, Bang was shocked to find his own consciousness showing signs of corruption. If he, a powerful master, was affected like this, one could only imagine what state the citizens of City Z were in. Bang turned his head, looking at the empty dojo. The heavy stone in his heart lifted slightly. Long before the pillar erupted, the moment God's energy began to leak, Bang had already sent the weak Sharenko away to safety. Now, this old man has no more worries. Bang took a deep breath, adjusting his breathing to its optimal state. Then, he strode out of the dojo. At this moment, City Z had turned into a living hell. Explosions echoed everywhere. Cars crashed into each other, piercing horns and the roar of flames filled the air. Yet, there were no screams of panic or fleeing footsteps. Not because people were calm, but because they had all collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Nearly a minute passed. Amidst the roar of exploding cars, the fallen citizens slowly climbed up from the ground. Their bodies flickered with chaotic, multicolored light. Their bodies became stronger, their speed became agile, and their strength became terrifying. In the blink of an eye, thousands of civilians turned into puppets equivalent to peak demon-level monsters. They charged forward madly, intending to spread to other cities. And those who were slightly stronger to begin with now radiated the powerful aura of dragon-level monsters. They didn't charge blindly like the other puppets. Instead, they observed their surroundings mechanically before taking action. Meanwhile, 2,000 meters underground. Run! Faster! Why are you still mumbling nonsense back there? A small black creature carried a homeless man in his left hand, while his right hand transformed into a massive drill tens of meters long, frantically boring through the hard earth. Black Sperm was cursing up a storm. Not only because his teammate, Homeless Emperor, was still chanting religious nonsense without helping at all, but also because he sensed the crisis behind them. What the hell? Monster King Orochi's life force vanished after just 2 bursts. Is that king guy really that powerful? But what terrified Black Sperm wasn't king. It was another existence that made all 54 trillion of his cells tremble. Why are there more and more monsters in this world? I feel like even if I merge all 54 trillion cells, I'd still get one shot by a punch, damn it. -20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 126, Chapter 127, definitely not because I'm scared. 1,049 words. Chapter 127, definitely not because I'm scared. Black Sperm glanced at Homeless Emperor on his shoulder and clicked his tongue in annoyance. At this moment, Homeless Emperor looked like a maniac. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was shouting fanatically toward the rear, looking exactly like a brainwashed cultist. God! It's God! He has descended. He has come to the mortal world. Humanity will finally bow before the divine might of God. I will become God's most favored messenger. Ha 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 ha. Listening to Homeless Emperor's mumbling, Black Sperm was disdainful. God, schmod. This idiot is spouting nonsense again. There are absolutely no gods in this world. Even if there are, they're just powerful creatures using a fancy title. Black Sperm was a firm materialist. In his view, the gods humans worshipped were just one powerful creature after another. Foolish humans simply deified them. Although the aura behind us is indeed vast and terrifying, at most it's just an existence stronger than me. Calling itself a god, aren't you afraid of spraining your waist? Black Sperm wasn't a monster transformed from a human, he was a naturally born monster, born from the concept of sperm itself. Whatever. Whether it's God or king, as long as these pervertedly strong monsters stay far away, it's fine. Give me a few decades or centuries to develop, and I guarantee I'll beat them all up. The soil in front of them shattered into flying clods. Under the pressure of the powerful auras behind them, black sperm dug faster and faster. Beside him, Gums opened his massive mouth, constantly biting away huge chunks of earth. Führer Ugly's muscles bulged, his hands turning into a blur as he dug frantically. Although Nyan was also helping dig, his vertical pupils stared fixedly at a tiny crack nearby. Other thoughts began to form in his mind. As a dragon-level monster known for agility, Nyan possessed a very special ability. He could flatten his body to slip through tiny gaps. Right now, there were cracks everywhere in the soil. If he used his innate ability, he wouldn't have to toil away digging here. The moment this thought appeared, Nyan looked warily at Black Sperm and the others digging desperately ahead, and ultimately abandoned the idea. Right now, sticking together is the most important thing. Although these dragon-level executives look ugly, their strength is undeniable. The situation outside is too chaotic. Whether it's the strongest man on Earth, king, or the powerful existence Homeless Emperor calls God, or the war between the Hero Association and some unknown faction, the world has been dragged into endless conflict. If I run around alone, I might get slapped to death by some terrifying guy at any moment. Just then, Nyan suddenly realized that Black Sperm and the others, who had been digging furiously, had stopped. They even took 2 steps back. Oi. Are you kidding me? Black Sperm's pale face crumpled, his eyes filled with disbelief. The usually restless Gums obediently closed his gaping maw, retracting his short limbs until he looked like a giant dumpling. Führer Ugly stared in terror at the twisted existence in front of him, suddenly realizing he wasn't that ugly after all. Only Homeless Emperor on Black Sperm's shoulder let out a piercing scream of ecstasy. He wriggled down, crawling on all fours toward the twisted figure that had suddenly appeared. God! Yes, in front of Black Sperm's group, a twisted, grotesque humanoid figure floated in the void. It was God, descended to the mortal world. God looked at the 5 dragon-level monsters before him, one of whom was a messenger he had already granted power to, and felt a hint of resignation. How troublesome. This world's defensive nature is truly breathtaking. Even after regaining considerable power, God still couldn't descend personally into this world. He could only drastically increase the number of gods chosen he created. With a slight scan just now, he discovered these 4 dragon-level monsters with decent potential and decided to bring them under his wing. Black Sperm was now on high alert, ready to summon all his clones back at any moment. At the slightest sign of trouble, he would merge into the ultimate lifeform composed of 54 trillion cells, platinum sperm. Of course, he wouldn't merge them all, he'd keep at least 100 individual cells outside just in case he got wiped out. Just as the atmosphere solidified, God spoke. His vast, magnificent voice entered the ears of every dragon-level monster instantly. I grant you power. Become my agents walking in the mortal world. You need only execute one goal: destroy the Hero Association. Exterminate humanity. Hearing this, adoration and reverence practically poured from Homeless Emperor's eyes. He knelt fanatically before God, his expression delirious. Thank you for your grace, God. I will not fail your expectations. I will dedicate myself to the complete extermination of humanity. Black Sperm, Nyan, Führer Ugly, and Gums looked at each other, momentarily unsure of what to do. What do we do? Listen to this God? Nyan looked at Black Sperm, the strongest among them. Even with 10 times the courage, Nyan wouldn't dare defy a god of unknown power. He hoped Black Sperm would speak for them. Sensing the gazes of the other 3 executives, Black Sperm glanced warily at God, then at Homeless Emperor kowtowing on the ground. He couldn't help but facepalm. Damn it. I shouldn't have saved this guy. He defected right at the start. After pondering for a few seconds, Black Sperm nodded and spread his arms helplessly. Fine. But you must promise to let us leave freely after this matter is concluded. He ultimately chose not to turn against God. The opponent's aura was too terrifying. Even if he evolved into platinum sperm, he probably couldn't win. The unknown is always the most frightening. Furthermore, Black Sperm's goal in joining the Monster Association was also to unite the monster's power to defeat the Hero Association. It aligned basically with God's goal. That's right. Just aligned goals. Definitely not because I'm scared. Definitely. -20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 127, Chapter 128, Do Not Fail My Expectations. 1086 words. Chapter 128, Do Not Fail My Expectations. Seeing that even the strongest among them, Black Sperm, had chosen to compromise, Nyan frowned deeply. He turned his gaze toward Gums. Gums was notorious among the dragon-level executives for having a low IQ, acting purely on instinct. Nyan hoped the gluttonous beast might provide some unexpected opening for escape. If possible, Nyan still yearned for freedom. He had no desire to be anyone's foot soldier. He had originally joined the Monster Association simply to use the organization to weaken the heroes so he could roam the world as he pleased. However, the usually insatiable Gums was currently acting like a submissive quail, crouching obediently before God, motionless. Nyan? He then turned to Führer Ugly, only to find that the normally short-tempered brute was staring at God with a look of intense admiration. His eyes were practically glowing. To think there exists a humanoid being even uglier than me. He is breathtakingly hideous. I must work under him, only then can I reclaim a shred of superiority regarding my own looks. Nyan. Are they all just going to submit? As for Homeless Emperor, Nyan didn't even bother looking at him. The man was already God's #1 sycophant, still busy banging his head against the dirt. Realizing that if he were the only outlier, he would likely be slapped to death for trying to run, Nyan finally gave in as well. God lined the 5 dragon-level executives up in a row. He raised his hand, and 5 beams of chaotic, shimmering energy shot directly into their bodies. In an instant, divine power was generated within the 4 new recruits, while the power already within Homeless Emperor swelled at an astronomical rate. Black Sperm's pupils constricted sharply. He stared at his own body in disbelief, his shock beyond words. As an existence with total control over his physical makeup, Black Sperm was the most sensitive to changes in his cellular essence. He could feel that after the injection of God's power, every single one of his cells was undergoing a world-shaking transformation. My God! My cell count has increased by at least 10 times. I have 540 trillion cells now. And it didn't stop there. Black Sperm threw a punch. A fierce gale erupted from his fist, instantly pulverizing a massive boulder nearby. Not only has the quantity skyrocketed, but the quality of each cell is far higher. A single clone of mine now could probably beat 10 of my old ones. He swallowed hard. If I merge all 540 trillion of these high-quality cells together, what kind of monster will I create? With that thought, Black Sperm hesitated no longer and began the fusion process. Across every city on the planet, almost every Black Sperm clone let out an excited roar simultaneously before transforming into wisps of black light and vanishing. However, he didn't absorb every single one. He left 100 or so individual cells in each city as a backup insurance policy against a total wipeout. Under the influence of his innate ability and the newly acquired divine power, countless clones merged. A pulsating, berserk life aura was birthed at extreme speed. Tens of seconds later. Boom! 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 A violent shockwave of energy swept in all directions. A tall, slender figure slowly emerged from the rising dust. This towering figure was composed entirely of brilliant, multifaceted diamond. Even without sunlight, he sparkled with a blinding luster. Every inch of his skin was like diamond armor, and a single jewel-encrusted antenna sat atop his head. Diamond Sperm arrives. Feeling the abyss-like power flowing through him, Diamond Sperm clenched his fists, his face showing a look of pure intoxication. So this is what it feels like to be the ultimate lifeform, simply magnificent. He felt as though he could match anything in existence. But seeing the twisted, eldritch god standing before him, Diamond Sperm's ego instantly deflated. His current power was a gift from this unknown entity. It was better not to get too cocky. What if the guy decided to take it back? Next, the other 4 dragon-level executives underwent their own metamorphoses. The muscles on Führer Ugly began to swell uncontrollably, and his face became so grotesquely hideous that a normal human would vomit just looking at him. God raised a hand, and the 5 executives were instantly teleported to the surface to prevent the narrow tunnels from obstructing their evolutions. Gah! Arg! Ah-ha-ha! Accompanied by agonizing roars, Führer Ugly's muscles inflated like a balloon, his height ballooning until he reached nearly 100 meters tall. His muscles had turned into rock-like slabs, with terrifying veins pulsing visibly on the surface. God-tier physical strength permeated his colossal frame. Gums developed a layer of writhing flesh armor. This armor moved constantly, capable of digesting any incoming attack and allowing him to spray highly concentrated stomach acid from every pore of his body in a 360-degree radius. Furthermore, his size swelled to 60 or 70 meters. From a distance, he looked like a blood-red flesh mountain that never stopped moving. Homeless Emperor looked on with fanatical devotion as he accepted God's power. His physical body was strengthened at a visible rate, turning his once frail, scrawny frame into a tall, imposing figure. But the physical buff was just a side effect. His true enhancement lay in his light orbs. Each blast now carried significantly more power, and he was granted a 100% immunity to his own explosions. He could now engage in point-blank suicide bombings without taking a scratch. Nyan's body became even more slender and wiry. With a single step, he vanished, reappearing 1,000 meters away before returning to his original spot in under a second. He was already known for his agility, but after God's enhancement, he had pushed speed to its absolute limit. Crossing a kilometer took less than a blink. You have been empowered. Remember my command, lead the puppets above. Defeat the Hero Association. Exterminate humanity. Achieve victory with maximum speed. Do not fail my expectations. As the voice fell, the 5 dragon-level executives felt the world spin. When their vision cleared, they were standing in the center of City Z. In an instant, thousands of powerful monster puppets appeared before their eyes. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 128, Chapter 129, Move Out, Everyone. 1018 words. Chapter 129, Move Out, Everyone. Diamond Sperm looked at the countless monsters radiating God's chaotic energy, and a smirk curled his lips. Seeing such a massive horde, including quite a few with dragon-level auras, Nyan rubbed his claws against his chin and guessed. This must be the army our Lord left for us. I suppose we're meant to lead this pack to wipe out humanity. Hearing Nyan's logical analysis, Führer Ugly nodded beside him, looking impressed despite not fully understanding. Homeless Emperor, however, stared at the monsters with gritted teeth. He looked ready to incinerate them all with his light orbs. Damn it! I should be the only one favored by God. It's one thing for the other executives to get a buff, but how dare these filthy mongrels lay claim to his divine power? At that moment, it didn't even cross Homeless Emperor's mind to wonder if these mongrels had stolen the power or if God had simply forcibly crammed it into them. Gums, meanwhile, was looking around until he spotted something like a treasure. He lunged forward, grabbed a monster, and swallowed it whole. As his jaw worked, Gums shuddered, and his aura surged slightly. HM? Diamond Sperm noticed this, and his eyes narrowed. He reached out and grabbed a wandering dragon-level puppet, his fingers sinking deep into its skull. In an instant, his cells began to multiply frantically inside the puppet's body, absorbing its nutrients. In a blink, the unlucky dragon-level monster turned into a shriveled husk. Diamond Sperm was delighted to find that the divine power within him had grown. Ah ha ha ha. These aren't soldiers meant for us to lead, this is a gift box of snacks left by God. Diamond Sperm flickered. In a flash, he tore through thousands of demon-level monsters, the hardened antennae on his head leaving gaping holes in their chests. A terrifying suction force erupted. The demon-level puppets fell like withered husks. Diamond Sperm's divine power grew stronger, and his physical stats began to skyrocket across the board. Seeing him start to feast, the other executives refused to be left behind. They began to devour the puppets greedily. For a time, the infinite monsters meant to conquer the world were being systematically slaughtered and consumed by the very generals meant to lead them. By the time the last monster was devoured, the auras of the 5 executives had reached a terrifying peak. Diamond Sperm stretched his chiseled, crystalline body and suddenly turned his head toward the edge of the city. A confident, arrogant smile spread across his face. My. Quite a few little mice have crawled in. Let's go, everyone. It's time to end these so-called heroes. With those words, the 5 generals vanished, charging toward the city limits at breakneck speed. In their perception, 15 high-energy reactions were approaching. High-dimensional space. Seeing the actions of the 5, God fell silent. Do these lower lifeforms have nothing in their heads but the urge to consume? But after a moment's thought, he realized that focusing on high-end combat power was more efficient than a meat shield strategy. Their actions were acceptable. King, as you can see, the power currently under my command far exceeds your so-called hero association. You are powerless to change this outcome. Why continue to struggle? God spoke indifferently, his gaze fixed on the suppressed king. King's aura was still rising slowly but steadily. The stellar seals covering his body were cracking bit by bit. Despite the time dilation effect, breaking God's seal was merely a matter of time. Facing God's taunt, King's majestic, domineering face remained stoic. He spoke flatly. It doesn't matter. I believe in them. And I believe in the man who has been fighting against you all this time. Oh? You mean the human who uses spatial abilities? His strength is decent by mortal standards, but alone, he can at best stall my diamond sperm. As for the other 4 divine messengers, how will mere humans deal with them? King stopped talking and refocused entirely on shattering the seal. The dimensional space fell into a heavy silence. God cast a wary glance at the continuously strengthening king, thinking, this is trouble. I never expected a low-level world to produce 2 such monsters. One had transcended the rules and was currently traversing a spatial tunnel, he would likely return to Earth within the hour. The other, though currently weaker, possessed a physique of total adaptation and infinite regeneration that was beyond disgusting. It wouldn't be long before he became truly terrifying. God was currently in a weakened state. What he needed to do was slaughter every member of the Hero Association within the hour to force the world's rules to recognize him. Only then could his true body leave the high-dimensional space and descend. Once that happened, neither the transcended Baldy nor this stowaway with the weird body would be a threat. Meanwhile, City Z outskirts. Tank Top Master's face was grim. He hadn't even crossed 50 meters into the city when he felt his tank top start to tremble. His unwavering tank top faith was being interfered with by the chaotic and magnificent aura ahead, causing his fighting spirit to waver. Child Emperor's fingers flew across his keyboard, creating afterimages. He chewed on a multicolored lollipop and spoke into the combs. Everyone, the energy used by the unknown intruder far exceeds our research projections. It's highly likely that, like the alien invasion, this is an extraterrestrial threat. Therefore, the Hero Association has classified this entity as God, a God-level disaster capable of causing human extinction. Mr. King and One Punch Man, who were stationed in City Z, are currently unreachable. I suspect they have already engaged the enemy. We must provide support immediately. Move out. Destination, the source of the multicolored light pillar. Child Emperor's voice, though high-pitched and youthful, carried a firm resolve that echoed in the ears of every S-class hero. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 129, Chapter 130, He Exploded. 1001 words. Chapter 130, He Exploded. Tatsumaki hovered in midair, her violent and condensed psychokinesis swirling around her to form a faint green barrier. She stared at the distant multicolored pillar of light that was still pulsing with energy. Though her gaze was solemn, her words remained sharp and mocking. Humph. Just to show off playing God. Once I drag this bastard out, I'm going to twist him into a pretzel. As expected of Miss Tatsumaki. Even now, she is full of disdain for her opponent. The muscular superalloy Darkshine took a peek at Tatsumaki floating above and couldn't help but give a mental thumbs up. In that case, I shouldn't feel nervous either. My muscles will give me the answer. Perfect muscles will bring me the ultimate power. Darkshine struck a pose. Every slab of his marble-carved muscles radiated a glossy, metallic luster. He looked like an ancient Greek sculpture, robust and filled with aesthetic perfection. Feeling the rhythmic power of his physical strength, Darkshine's tension evaporated, replaced by his unparalleled confidence. Flashy Flash's eyes were fixed forward. His right hand was already resting on the hilt of his sword at his waist. At the first sign of trouble, he would draw his blade with the speed of a lightning strike. Atomic Samurai had shed his usual casual playfulness. He stared ahead with sharp eyes as he drew his sword. The blade glinted coldly in the sun, and the toothpick he was chewing on snapped under his focus. Let's see just how powerful this guy called God is. But I promise you, the blade in my hand is sharper. I'll scout ahead. Stay 50 meters behind me. Zombieman's calm voice rang out. He held 2 massive custom handguns, a lit cigarette dangling from his lips. Enveloped in a cloud of smoke, he strode forward into the unknown. No one objected. Since Zombie Man possessed a near-immortal body, he was the logical choice for a point man to gather intel. The other S-class heroes followed 50 meters behind him, all on high alert. The only sound in the field was the constant chewing of Pig God. Oh, and the sound of Watchdog Man using his hind leg to scratch an itch.
Oi. Don't tell me everyone in City Z is already dead? Why is it so quiet? Or were they all kidnapped?
Metal Bat gripped his bat with both hands, his arm muscles bulging.
His eyes scanned the surroundings, ready to launch a crushing blow at a moment's notice.
Bang had long since joined the other S-Class heroes. The internal force of the water stream rock-smashing fist was circulating through his meridians, primed for a burst. He frowned, his aged face covered in deep wrinkles.
Indeed, this is too eerie.
City Z has a population of over 10 million.
It shouldn't be this silent. Rather than everyone being slaughtered, I suspect the enemy has used a special method to put the entire population into a coma.
Bang's words caused the others to fall into thought.
It was true. If the enemy had killed everyone, the scene would be far more gruesome.
If 10 million people had died, the ground would be a river of blood and the air would be thick with the scent of iron. Instead, they were walking through a literal dead zone. From a perspective the S-Class heroes couldn't see, the entirety of City Z had been encased in a semi-transparent layer of chaotic energy, covering the city like an inverted bowl.
Hero Association Headquarters. The control room was in total disarray.
Staff members stared anxiously at the main screen, which was flashing red. Their faces were pale with dread.
Cannot contact S-Class hero, Zombie Man. Status, missing. Cannot contact S-Class hero, Silver Fawn. Status, missing.
All deployed S-Class heroes have lost contact.
Preliminary assessment, they have entered a signal blocking zone. Satellites cannot observe the area. Hearing the wave of bad news, Sitch collapsed into his chair.
His silver hair seemed to turn even whiter.
Keep fighting, heroes.
If all the S-Class heroes, the symbols of humanity's highest combat power, were to fall in this disaster, then humanity would effectively be finished. Sitch stared at the satellite feed with unshakable despair.
This sense of powerlessness was even stronger than during the alien invasion.
On the screen, the multicolored light pillar had erupted through the atmosphere, shooting straight into the deep cosmos. It truly bridged heaven and earth.
This level of manifestation was far beyond any monster seen before. It even eclipsed Boros, whom the association had classified as a god-level threat.
Even though the S-Class heroes were powerful, Sitch couldn't stop himself from worrying in the face of such a terrifying enemy.
However,
in Sitch's heart, there was one final line of defense.
As long as that man has not failed, then humanity has not failed. Humanity's last hope, the strongest man on Earth. King. Even if every other S-Class hero fell, as long as King remained standing, humanity could still find a sliver of dawn in the blackest night. The group held their formation tightly. Against such an unknown threat, even S-Class heroes dared not be arrogant.
Suddenly, Child Emperor's radar beeped. His pupils constricted, and he shouted urgently.
Bad news. 5 high-energy signatures are closing in rapidly. Bearing, 9 o'clock. Zombie Man, look out. Zombie Man's eyes sharpened.
He swung his dual pistols, aiming the dark barrels in the direction Child Emperor indicated, his brown trench coat fluttering in the wind.
Copy that. Bang. 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 The muzzles flashed brilliantly as bullets tore through the air.
In the very next instant, Zombie Man only sensed a streak of deep blue light flashing past.
Boom. His head exploded. Like a ripe watermelon hit by a sledgehammer, it burst apart.
Red and white matter splattered across the pavement like rain.
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 130, Chapter 131, The War Begins. 2,131 words. Chapter 131, The War Begins. What?
Seeing Zombieman's headless body flying through the air, alarm bells shrieked in the minds of the S-Class heroes. Almost simultaneously, they all moved to activate their respective abilities. In the very next instant, a blue streak of light closed in at a velocity that defied the limits of human perception. Pori Prisoner didn't even have time to register what was happening. His battle instincts, honed through countless life-and-death encounters, took over. Driven by a sense of ultimate crisis, he subconsciously crossed his arms in front of his chest.
Boom! The sound of meat being pulverized echoed through the street. Prisoner's arms were instantly reduced to a bloody mess.
A massive force surged through his body, forcing him to cough up a fountain of blood as he was launched like a heavy-duty cannonball, smashing through a skyscraper behind him.
The sight of their fellow S-Class hero being one-shot left the others in a state of shock. Many present hadn't even seen the face of the monster who struck before they were already down a member. Flashy Flash's pupils constricted. His golden hair fluttered like golden snakes in the air as he vanished from his spot. With a movement akin to short-range teleportation, he intercepted the culprit who had just attacked two S-Class heroes. Clang! The screech of metal on metal rang out. Flashy Flash's razor-sharp blade collided head-on with a whip-like tail that glistened like a diamond. An invisible shockwave rippled outward from the two of them, and the ground beneath their feet shattered instantly. Oh! You actually managed to react to my speed. I suppose humans aren't all complete trash. You're fast, you just look a bit too much like a girl. The heroes finally got a clear look at the figure who had decapitated Zombie Man and incapacitated Pori Pori Prisoner. It was a humanoid creature over 2 meters tall. His entire body shimmered with a diamond-like luster. Chiseled muscles, resembling the work of a master sculptor, were arranged perfectly across his frame, exuding a sense of lethal aesthetic beauty. The whip-like antenna on his head flicked occasionally, creating sharp sonic booms with every twitch. The pressure he exerted was overwhelming. Seeing the newcomer, Super Alloy Darkshine, who was at the front of the hero line, froze. He stumbled back 2 steps, his own black, glistening muscles actually seeming to dim in comparison. What is that? Those perfect muscle lines, such aesthetic grace. Darkshine trembled. He looked at his own hypertrophied, bulky muscles, then at the opponent's streamlined, perfect physique. It felt as if something fundamental in his heart was cracking. His eyes turned bloodshot. He strode forward, throwing a violent elbow strike at Diamond Sperm. This guy's muscles must be for show. The answer my muscles give me can't be wrong. Diamond Sperm looked up, a mocking smile already on his face. Raising only a single finger, he effortlessly stopped Darkshine's high-velocity elbow strike. Your power is alright. Compared to other humans, you're at least semi-qualified. But it's not enough. In the next second, a violent whip kick followed. Darkshine felt his abdomen turn inside out as he was kicked with enough force to disappear into the far distance. Tank Top Master's expression darkened. His muscles swelled instantly. Just as he was about to rush forward to support Flashy Flash, he sensed a fierce gale aiming for the back of his head. He spun around abruptly, swinging a sandbag-sized fist wreathed in raw physical power. Even without a clear visual on the enemy, he chose to meet force with force. In the next second, Tank Top Master's face went white. He stared in horror at his arm, which had been twisted into a mangled knot of bone and meat. His pupils shrank to pinpoints. Führer Ugly let out a disdainful laugh. Listening to Tank Top Master's scream, his eyes filled with mockery. This is an S-Class hero? You feel no different from an ant. Saying this, Führer Ugly grabbed the terrified Tank Top Master and squeezed him in his massive palm. Crack! With a flex of his grip, every bone in Tank Top Master's body emitted a crisp snapping sound. The hero wailed in agony. At this moment, his proud tank top power was utterly useless, leaving him without a shred of ability to resist. Tatsumaki's forehead bulged with veins. She raised her hand without hesitation, her oceanic psychokinesis rushing toward Führer Ugly. Suddenly, the air behind her hissed. A feline humanoid monster materialized from thin air, its sharp claws tearing through the atmosphere as they slashed at the floating Esper. The claws, wreathed in divine power, struck her psychic shield. A tooth-aching screech of friction erupted as the supposedly indestructible barrier was forcibly torn in half. What? Tatsumaki was shocked. She had no choice but to retract her attack on Führer Ugly to reinforce her shattered shield. Nyan's strike didn't land, but he didn't linger. He took a step back and vanished into the void instantly. This was the divine power he had received. Not only was his speed massively enhanced, but he now possessed the power to hide within the folds of space. He had truly become a terrifying assassin, capable of delivering a fatal blow whenever the opportunity arose. Seeing Tatsumaki pinned down and Tank Top Master reduced to a broken mess, the surrounding S-Class heroes moved to intervene. Facing the colossal Führer Ugly, Bang's expression was grim. Even if the opponent was humanoid, the size difference was too vast, he felt a rare sense of powerlessness. Metal Bat, fueled by rage, swung his bat with everything he had. The blow landed on Führer Ugly's leg, producing a faint sound of bone cracking and causing the giant to stumble. You miserable bastard! How dare you sneak attack me? Führer Ugly roared in fury. He swung a massive fist with incredible speed. Ugly face caving punch. Metal Bat's face paled. He didn't even have time to dodge and could only meet the blow with his bat. Damn it! How is someone this big so fast? His proud metal bat let out a groan and bent into the shape of a question mark. Metal bat was launched by the punch, smashing through row after row of residential buildings and kicking up a massive cloud of dust in the distance. He lay in a crater, his internal organs vibrating from the impact. Covered in blood, his consciousness began to fade. Woohoo! That's one. Führer Ugly's excited howl made Bang's grip on his fists tighten. He strode forward, his hands tracing blue arcs in the air as the power of the water stream rock-smashing fist circulated endlessly within him. Cease your arrogance. This old man will deal with you, monster. Just as Führer Ugly and Bang were about to clash, a discordant voice interrupted the tension of the battlefield. Oi. Is it my turn yet? The arrogant voice drifted over the wind into everyone's ears. Everyone looked up to see a disheveled middle-aged man standing atop a skyscraper, pointing toward the heavens. The originally blue sky began to turn a brilliant gold. In the blink of an eye, thousands of energy orbs descended like a golden rain, blanketing the entire area. Minutes before the battle started, Homeless Emperor had already positioned himself on the roof to charge up, preparing to turn this entire district into a living hell. With his enhanced divine power, no matter how much energy he gathered, his aura didn't leak, making him nearly impossible to detect. Dogman Energy Shield. Energy Reflection Array, deploy. Facing such a massive AoE attack, Child Emperor and Drive Knight reacted simultaneously, deploying defensive shields to cover the group. Though they didn't want to protect the monster executives, protecting the S-class heroes was the priority. Boom! 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 Deafening explosions echoed non-stop. Countless buildings shattered into dust under the energy shockwaves. Child Emperor stared in shock at the emergency warnings on his computer. A drop of sweat rolled down his face. Damn it! Why is that hobo's energy attack so terrifying? Both the quality and quantity are breathtaking. The Dogman shield isn't going to hold. Drive Knight's scarlet mechanical eye flashed with cold light. He poured all his energy into maintaining the shield, but the defense was clearly crumbling. Even with their combined shields, they were consuming massive amounts of energy just to survive Homeless Emperor's barrage. Meanwhile, Homeless Emperor had been bombarding them for over 10 seconds with no signs of stopping. If anything, he seemed to be getting more excited. Enough! That guy can clearly keep this up for minutes. If this continues, everyone will be blown to bits. You're all useless, let me turn that old man into meat paste. Tatsumaki's expression turned cold. Her majestic psychokinesis unleashed a powerful shockwave, and she shot into the sky like a green comet. The energy orbs, containing terrifying power, were diverted into strange trajectories the moment they touched her psychic aura. Just as she prepared to fly straight to the building and twist the hobo into a pretzel, the sharp sound of whistling air came from behind her again. Get away from me, you damn cat. Tatsumaki sensed her rear shield being torn again. Her rage peaked, and a massive psychic blast erupted from her, sweeping in all directions. Nyan revealed a smirk of successful planning. He took one step back and disappeared into the void. Having lost her target, Tatsumaki had to pull her power back within a few meters to reinforce her shield. She realized how tricky Nyan was. If she focused on attacking, her shield would be easily shredded by the elusive cat, likely leading to her taking a direct hit. Based on her observation, the cat monster was incredibly fast, and her shield couldn't regenerate instantly during an offensive. This gave Nyan the perfect window to deliver a crippling blow. For a moment, Tatsumaki, the strongest hero on the field, was pinned down by the combined efforts of Homeless Emperor and Nyan. On the other side of the battlefield, Pig God and Watchdog Man were about to provide support when the ground shook violently beside them. A foul wind blew from behind. Pig God sensed danger, but before he could react, his vision went pitch black. Despite using all his strength to prop open the closing jaws of Gums, he couldn't match the creature's raw power and was swallowed whole. Watchdog Man's usually deadpan face finally showed a flicker of emotion. He flew forward, his sharp claws slashing several times in midair, leaving cold glints that struck Gums' body. The skin was torn open, and scarlet blood sprayed into the void. Gums let out a cry of pain, but the superficial wound scabbed over in the next second, healing almost instantly. Watchdog Man dropped to all fours, pouncing at Gums like a hunting dog. His figure turned into dozens of afterimages as he zipped around Gums, delivering constant strikes. Ro or R. Gums let out a shrill scream. His short arms flailed wildly as his massive maw snapped repeatedly at where Watchdog Man appeared, but he couldn't catch him. In seconds, hundreds of bloody gashes appeared on Gums' body. Blood flowed freely down his frame, only to stop in the next second as the wounds knit themselves back together.
Realizing the opponent's defense and regeneration were both incredibly high, Watchdog Man reappeared 100 meters away, flicking the blood off his claws.
Tricky. Attack power isn't high enough to kill this big guy directly. He heals faster than I can cut him.
Watchdog Man glanced around and realized that every S-Class hero was currently in a desperate struggle. Diamond Sperm had defeated Dark Shine and one-shot Zombie Man and Prisoner, now he was suppressing Flashy Flash. Führer Ugly had defeated Tank Top Master and Metal Bat and was now engaging Bang.
Nyan was single-handedly stalling the most powerful hero, Tatsumaki.
Homeless Emperor's Bombardment had pinned down Child Emperor, Drive Knight, and even Atomic Samurai, who, as a glass cannon, was forced to hide under the shields.
This is bad. We've fallen into a disadvantage instantly. At another part of the battlefield.
Flashy Flash frowned, his voice cold. I have no interest in chatting with monsters, nor do I plan to boast of my strength to a soul destined for my blade. As his voice fell, Flashy Flash drew his sword again. A chilling glint of steel slashed toward Diamond Sperm's neck.
Facing this lethal strike, Diamond Sperm didn't even bother to dodge.
Instead, he proactively exposed his neck, an arrogant, wild smile on his face.
Come on. Cut me right here.
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you.
Chapter 131, Chapter 132, You Look Like a Stray Dog. 1,118 words. Chapter 132, You Look Like a Stray Dog. Humph. Courting death.
Flashy Flash's eyes were cold as ice. Since the monster before him dared to provoke him so openly, he would see how it liked being diced. In the next second, under Diamond Sperm's mocking gaze, Flashy Flash twisted his wrist. His blade slashed toward the monster's neck at a velocity that defied logic. Flashy Slash. In the span of a single heartbeat, Flashy Flash relied on his extreme speed to land dozens of strikes on Diamond Sperm's neck. A massive shock of recoil traveled up the blade. Flashy Flash's palm went numb, and a sense of dread filled his mind. This kind of feedback only happened when a blade struck something impossibly hard. Could it be? Crack. The sound of shattering steel echoed. Flashy Flash's eyes widened in disbelief as shards of his blade scattered through the air like falling butterfly wings. He had swung at Diamond Sperm's neck, so why was it his sword that broke? Looking closely, Diamond Sperm's neck, shimmering with a brilliant luster, didn't even have a faint white scratch on it. Too weak, too weak.
Human, is speed the only thing you have to offer?
What a pathetic creature. As he spoke, Diamond Sperm threw a punch. The fist, carrying immense power, created a series of sonic booms.
Its speed exceeded the limits of the human retina. Even Flashy Flash couldn't see it clearly. He could only rely on his raw danger instinct to tilt his head to the side, narrowly avoiding having his skull detonated. The fist grazed his cheek, severing several strands of his flowing golden hair. Flashy Flash flickered, turning into an afterimage that reappeared behind Diamond Sperm. He launched a vicious kick. Flashy kick. Too slow. Diamond Sperm sneered. The flexible antenna on his head whipped through the air, leaving a blue trail, and struck Flashy Flash precisely on the knee. In his eyes, Flashy Flash's teleportation-like speed was as sluggish as a snail. Arg! Flashy Flash let out a cry of pain. Amidst the spray of blood, a red line burst across the junction of his calf and thigh. The entire leg was severed instantly, hanging on by only a thin strip of skin and muscle. I can't engage him in close combat. His melee capabilities are too overwhelming. I have to put distance between us first. With that thought, Flashy Flash used his one good leg to retreat rapidly, simultaneously activating a secret ninja technique. 15 Flash Burial. In an instant, Flashy Flash blurred. 15 identical afterimages split from his body, all fleeing in different directions at the same top speed. Looking at the 15 clones, Diamond Sperm didn't give chase immediately. Instead, he struck a pose where he stood, radiating casual arrogance. Just a bunch of parlor tricks. Weak. Pathetically weak. Is there no one stronger? The moment the words left his mouth, Diamond Sperm stepped forward. The ground detonated under the impact of his launch, spiderweb cracks spreading across the asphalt. Boom! 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 He transformed into a streak of azure light. In less than 0.1 seconds, he smashed through every single clone, closing in on the real Flashy Flash. Alarm bells shrieked in Flashy Flash's mind. He pushed his body to its absolute limit, trying to outrun the monster whose speed far eclipsed his own. However, Diamond Sperm wore a wicked smirk. During the chase, he pulled up right alongside Flashy Flash, assuming a lazy, side-lying posture in mid-air.
Going to kneel on your own?
Damn it! Bloodshot veins filled Flashy Flash's eyes. The monster's mockery was a direct assault on his pride as a ninja and an S-class hero. But the continuous, throbbing pain from his mangled knees served as a warning. He couldn't afford to be impulsive. This monster's stats were simply in another dimension. Suddenly, without warning, Diamond Sperm threw a punch. Flashy Flash, who was maintaining his top speed, couldn't adjust his posture in time. With the sound of shattering bone, Flashy Flash was sent flying backward. He smashed through a skyscraper, piercing through the entire floor before coming to a stop. Chunks of concrete rained down, burying Flashy Flash in a pile of debris and thick dust. For a moment, the world went silent. Ha, ha! Flashy Flash gasped for air, his vision blurred. His consciousness flickered, on the verge of shutting down. He had just taken a direct punch from Diamond Sperm. His left arm was now twisted like a pretzel, the bones inside were crushed into a powder finer than the sugar frosting on a rice cracker. Combined with his bleeding knee and the internal damage to his organs from the shockwave, Flashy Flash's condition had reached a critical limit. I need a plan. I have to use these ruins to recover a bit of stamina. Should I continue the head-on fight? Flashy Flash shook his head, rejecting the thought. A head-on clash was suicide. His current state was proof enough of how foolish that idea was. The monster's every stat far exceeded his own. He was crushed in his proudest attribute, speed, and his own attacks couldn't even scratch the monster's defense. Moreover, he could sense that Diamond Sperm hadn't even gotten serious yet. If he had used his full strength, Flashy Flash would have been a red mist by now. Should I set a trap? Flashy Flash scanned his surroundings. Nothing but useless concrete. The only thing remotely hard was some snapped rebar. Impossible. These ordinary materials can't hurt that monster. A trap is only useful if it has lethal stopping power. Should I keep running and wait for backup? Recalling the state of the battlefield as he fled, he knew that was a long shot. Every S-class hero nearby was locked in their own desperate struggle. The other 4 enemies were equally powerful, making it impossible for anyone to break away to save him. This is a disaster. The rhythmic, agonizing pain kept him from losing consciousness, allowing him to focus on recovering what little energy he could. He manipulated the muscles in his limbs to tighten, restricting blood flow to achieve a basic tourniquet effect. Just then, a thunderous explosion came from above. Crash! The concrete ceiling above him was blasted apart. Bathed in the sunlight, shimmering with a brilliant diamond luster, Diamond Sperm looked down at the broken Flashy Flash lying in the rubble. Ha 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 ha! Look at you! You look just like a stray dog. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 132, Chapter 133, Could It Be Blast? 1043 words. Chapter 133, Could It Be Blast? Flashy Flash opened his mouth to speak, but a massive foot shimmering with a diamond luster slammed down onto his chest. Tug. Blood sprayed from his lips. Intense pain flared through his chest, and the sheer weight of the force pinned him so hard he couldn't even twitch. Damn it, that stomp broke at least 4 or 5 ribs. Diamond Sperm leaned down, looking at the blood-stained, battered Flashy Flash. His grin stretched nearly from ear to ear, his laughter wild and unrestrained. This is an S-class hero? You're no different from a stray dog on the side of the road. But I'm a nice guy. Seeing you in so much pain, I'll give you a quick end. Flashy Flash sensed the shadow of death descending. He struggled desperately, but the gap between his strength and Diamond Sperm's was a literal abyss. He was being crushed by raw stats. Just as Diamond Sperm raised his fist to detonate Flashy Flash's head, a sharp whistling sound cut through the air. Bang! A thunderous gunshot echoed across the battlefield. A custom-made armor-piercing round tore through the atmosphere and slammed directly into the side of Diamond Sperm's head. However, as the casing fell to the ground, the bullet didn't penetrate. A faint wisp of white smoke rose from where Diamond Sperm's head was struck, but the skin was perfectly unscathed. He scratched his head in confusion. Did something just touch me? It felt a bit itchy. Got any more of those pebbles? I'd like to feel a few more. Saying this, he twisted his head around,
his gaze locking onto a pale figure in a gray-black trenchcoat in the distance. Zombie Man was covered in blood, his previously exploded head fully restored, but his eyes were filled with unstoppable shock. It's not just the speed that's despair-inducing, even his defense is this broken. Armor-piercing rounds can't even scratch him.
But he had no choice. Zombie Man couldn't stand by and watch Diamond Sperm kill Flashy Flash.
Flash wasn't just a comrade, he was one of their most vital combatants.
With that thought, Zombie Man's eyes narrowed, his scarlet pupils locking onto Diamond Sperm as he rapidly squeezed the triggers.
The dual pistols roared like cannons. A torrential rain of bullets poured out, saturating the area around Diamond Sperm.
Against this onslaught, Diamond Sperm could have easily dodged, but he chose not to.
Instead, he spread his arms wide in a gesture of embracing nature. The barrage of armor-piercing rounds struck his body, producing only the crisp, metallic sounds of steel hitting diamond. Not a single mark was left on that perfect crystalline frame. A soothing massage every now and then feels quite nice. As a reward, let me treat you to a punch. Diamond Sperm cracked his neck, a relaxed expression on his face. Then, he took a step. In a flicker of movement, he was standing directly in front of Zombie Man.
What?
Even though he knew the monster was fast and had prepared accordingly, Zombie Man never expected a speed that felt like literal teleportation.
Boom!
Diamond Sperm threw a punch. The resulting sonic boom and violent shockwave vaporized Zombie Man's entire upper torso into a red mist. His internal organs didn't even have time to fall, they were vibrated into dust by the impact.
Zombie Man's lower half remained standing firmly on the pavement. Diamond Sperm looked at the perfectly clean, horizontal cross-section of the remaining waist and nodded in satisfaction.
It seems that after gaining this divine power, my control has improved significantly.
I can even create a perfect 50-50th split. Having turned his opponent into a grisly half-man cosplay, Diamond Sperm didn't leave. He waited unhurriedly.
As a powerful and cautious entity, back when he was in his black sperm state, he had thoroughly researched the data on most S-class heroes.
Therefore, he knew that the supposedly immortal Zombie Man wouldn't die just because his upper body was gone.
After waiting a few seconds, accompanied by a slight tremor in the lower body, the blood mist around the area began to coalesce.
The exposed flesh writhed and expanded.
His body began to recover at an extreme rate. New granulation tissue wove together to form muscle and skin, and white bone grew rapidly, reforming upward toward the head.
As two bloodstained eyeballs reconnected to the nervous system, Zombie Man's head was mostly restored.
The moment his vision returned, the first thing he saw was a massive, shimmering crystalline fist.
Crap! Zombie Man screamed internally.
Sure enough, his head was exploded by a single punch again. Red and white matter splattered everywhere, and his two bloody eyeballs rolled across the ground in surprise.
Diamond Sperm crouched down beside Zombie Man as if he had found a fascinating new toy. Interesting. I really want to see if your regeneration is truly infinite. Come on, keep growing back for me.
He decided then and there to spawn camp this interesting Zombie Man, exploding him every time he revived. He wanted to see how many times this guy could recover or if he really possessed a true undying body. Just then, an inexplicable sense of crisis suddenly rose from the depths of his soul. Diamond Sperm's brow furrowed, his excitement cooling into a grim, somber expression.
Who dares to interrupt my fun? Someone's courting death. But a powerhouse's intuition for danger was usually unerring.
Even someone of Diamond Sperm's caliber took it seriously. He pushed his perception to the maximum, scanning the surroundings.
Diamond Sperm's mind raced, filtering through any possible enemies.
To be able to make an ultimate lifeform like himself feel a strong sense of impending crisis, the opponent's strength had to be unfathomable.
Is it the strongest man on Earth, King? No, that's not right. Diamond Sperm had personally sensed King's aura before. That domineering, regal pressure was nowhere to be found. That meant only one mysterious powerhouse remained on the side of humanity.
Could it be the S-Class Rank 1 hero whose data has never been made public, the Ghost himself?
Blast?
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/Sega. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you.
Chapter 133, Chapter 134, My name is Blast. 1039 words. Chapter 134, My name is Blast.
In the next second, a deep, resonant voice rang out abruptly beside Diamond Sperm's ear, sending a chill from the soles of his feet straight to the crown of his skull. You are too powerful. As a wielder of divine power, your presence here will only disrupt the balance of this world.
Are you kidding me? Diamond Sperm nearly jumped out of his skin. When did this guy get behind him? Why hadn't he sensed a single thing? And he mentioned divine power. Does he know my strength was granted by God? His mind raced. Without a shred of hesitation, Diamond Sperm transformed into a streak of azure light and shot forward, covering dozens of kilometers in a heartbeat. Amidst the howling wind, as the scenery blurred past him, Diamond Sperm tried to steady his racing heart and let out a cold snort. I don't care what tricks you have. Against my absolute speed, human efforts are futile. However, in the very next instant, a crack appeared in the space directly in front of him. It rapidly expanded into a massive dimensional tunnel, shimmering with a blinding silver light. HM? So you were waiting for me here. Do you really take me for one of those weak humans who can't change direction once they've accelerated? Diamond Sperm's eyes flashed with mockery. He slammed a foot into the ground. The immense kinetic energy built up in his body was redirected into the earth, leaving a crater hundreds of meters wide. Amidst the rising dust, he flickered again, darting off in a completely different direction. But in Blast's eyes, these were merely parlor tricks. The surrounding space began to tremble violently. Suddenly, hundreds of dimensional portals materialized, packing Diamond Sperm's field of vision and merging into a seamless cage. Seeing himself trapped within a literal prison of spatial tunnels, Diamond Sperm felt his scalp tingle. This was the first time since his ultimate evolution that he had felt such overwhelming pressure. Is this the man ranked first among the S-class heroes? Blast? I don't know how he compares to King, but this ability is beyond disgusting. He didn't know where those tunnels led, but his warrior's intuition screamed that touching them would lead to something catastrophic. Collapse. A single word was uttered. The surrounding dimensional tunnels began to shrink rapidly, compressing Diamond Sperm's living space like a closing trap. Damn it! Realizing the tunnels could actually close in on him, Diamond Sperm panicked. He crouched down, intending to dig a tunnel into the earth to escape. But in the next second, the very dirt beneath him transformed into a shimmering silver spatial gate. Diamond Sperm recoiled, leaping into the air in shock. He kicked the air repeatedly, the friction between his feet and the atmosphere so intense it generated flames. He managed to hover in midair through sheer physical force. I can't keep this up. I have to go all out. Diamond Sperm gritted his teeth. He raised his right fist, gathering berserk power within it, and smashed it toward the nearest portal. The moment his fist touched the silver light of the dimensional tunnel, his entire body twisted and warped before vanishing entirely. Planet 328. After a dizzying sensation of the world spinning, Diamond Sperm crashed onto the cratered surface of a foreign planet. The first thing he noticed was that he wasn't on Earth. There was no oxygen, and the gravity was different, at least 10 times heavier than Earth's. Welcome to Planet 328. Although this is our first meeting, you should have heard of me. I am Blast. The voice rang out again, transmitted precisely into Diamond Sperm's ears through a unique application of power. He looked up and finally saw the man whose data was a complete mystery in the association's records. He was a tall, middle-aged man with sharp, short hair. He wore heavy, silver-gray battle armor and a pair of high-tech yellow goggles. There was a light stubble on his chin. This guy, he's the real deal. Diamond Sperm's eyes narrowed. He sensed the aura of a fellow powerhouse from Blast, along with a heavy sense of impending crisis. Seeing that Diamond Sperm didn't speak, Blast waited for 2 seconds before realizing. He chuckled and patted his head. Ah, sorry. I forgot you can't produce sound without a medium. Let's just end this quickly then. As he spoke, Blast vanished. Before Diamond Sperm could even register what happened, a crack appeared in the space beside him. Blast's fist, wreathed in black energy, lunged out. Gravity punch. I don't know what's going on, but I'll punch my way out. Diamond Sperm revealed a savage grin and threw a counter punch. Every inch of his perfectly chiseled diamond muscles erupted with raw physical power. The two heavy fists collided. Boom! 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 In an instant, the very ground of the planet buckled and tore apart. Earth. Zombie Man finished reconstructing his body. Looking at the spot where Diamond Sperm had vanished, his tension didn't ease. The enemy had been taken away by a mysterious powerhouse, but he couldn't relax yet. Flashy Flash could no longer stay in the combat zone. If he remained, his severe injuries would likely kill him. Thinking of this, Zombie Man dug through the rubble and hoisted the unconscious, blood-soaked Flashy Flash onto his shoulder. He began to run toward the edge of the battlefield. Once the wounded are secure, I'll return to the fight immediately. He glanced back at the battlefield, taking in the chaotic scenes, and made a decision. I'll help Tatsumaki first. She's the strongest one here. If I can free her up, she can turn the tide of this entire war. Just as he was formulating his plan, a sphere of light radiating destructive energy descended from the heavens, landing directly beside him. Distracted by his thoughts, Zombie Man couldn't dodge in time. He only managed to hurl Flashy Flash away before he was engulfed by a blinding wave of energy. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 134, Chapter 135, Super Alloy Rocket Elbow. 1039 words. Chapter 135, Super Alloy Rocket Elbow. On the other side of the battlefield, atop a high-rise building. Panic flickered in Homeless Emperor's eyes. He stood on a floating disc made of pure energy, with a protective light shield shielding him from the howling gales as he flew rapidly through the air. Damn it! Damn it all! Why won't my energy orbs burn that broad to ash? Why is she faster than me? Behind him, Tatsumaki was a streak of light in the storm. Her green curly hair fluttered wildly, and her pupils and entire body were wreathed in emerald radiance. Majestic psychokinesis saturated the air around her. Every energy orb Homeless Emperor unleashed was deflected by the seemingly thin but indestructible psychic barrier surrounding Tatsumaki. Although the resulting explosion slowed her down slightly, they couldn't stop her advance. He was filled with disbelief. I am the one favored by God. I have received 2 consecutive divine blessings. I am the ultimate messenger of God. So why can a mere woman who has never received a divine gift suppress me? The more he thought, the angrier he became. Thousands of energy orbs erupted around him. He decided to carpet bomb the entire area. I'll trap all the heroes in my blast zone. Let's see if you keep chasing me or choose to save your precious little friends. Countless energy orbs, rippling like water, rained down from the heavens. In an instant, they blanketed the ground below in a series of catastrophic explosions. A massive mushroom cloud soared into the sky. Destructive shockwaves swept outward in every direction, leveling what was left of City Z. As the smoke slowly cleared, most of the S-Class heroes remained unharmed. Child Emperor and Drive Knight had maintained their defensive shields, enveloping Atomic Samurai. Lying on the ground behind them were the heavily injured Metal Bat and Puri Puri Prisoner, along with the mangled remains of Tank Top Master. Child Emperor hadn't found a perfect opening to attack yet. Currently, his most vital role was acting as a damage-absorbing shield to protect his broken comrades. The brave giant is still on its way, but old man keeps spamming energy orbs. The interference is making it impossible to transport the mech components. Drive Knight hadn't left either. His scarlet mechanical eye scanned the battlefield continuously, storing every combatant's data in his processors. Besides, if Child Emperor were to hold the line alone, he wouldn't last long against the sheer volume of orbs the dragon-level executive was outputting. Outside the shields of Child Emperor and Drive Knight, Bang and the others engaging the executives were also largely unharmed. A faint psychic shield wreathed each of them, protecting them from the worst of the explosions. Tatsumaki, hovering in midair, saw that everyone was okay and let out a thunderous snort. In the end, you still have to rely on me. Without me, you'd all be ash by now. Useless bunch of losers. With that, she resumed her pursuit of the fleeing Homeless Emperor. Veins pulsed on her forehead, and her gaze grew increasingly lethal. You seem to be having fun with those explosions just now. Today, I'm going to grind you into meat paste. Crap. Homeless Emperor was scared witless. He pushed his flight speed to the limit while unleashing a barrage of orbs at the approaching Tatsumaki. Tatsumaki looked at the orbs surrounding her. With a mere thought, the orbs were frozen in midair by her psychokinesis, unable to move an inch forward. Just as she prepared to crush them all, a chilling whistle of air came from behind. Nyan, who had been hiding in the folds of space, suddenly materialized. His razor-sharp claws, bolstered by divine power, forcibly tore through her psychic shield. Homeless Emperor seized the opening. The orbs Tatsumaki was holding detonated all at once, their destructive energy staggering her mental focus for a split second. In the next heartbeat, Nyan unleashed a rapid-fire flurry of dozens of slashes. His claws, carrying extreme penetration and God's power, slammed viciously into Tatsumaki's newly formed shield. Bang! The psychic shield shattered like glass. Even though Tatsumaki poured every ounce of her mental strength into her defense, the shockwave from the claws penetrated through. Gah! Tatsumaki groaned in pain.
Like a falling star, she plummeted toward the ground, crashing heavily. The back of her signature high-slit black dress was shredded. Deep, bone-deep gashes marred her back, and blood began to soak the surrounding fabric. Seeing that the sneak attack had finally succeeded, the panic on Homeless Emperor's face solidified into a triumphant grin. He dispelled his flight disc and landed on the ground with the arrogance of a divine messenger. He walked unhurriedly toward the downed Tatsumaki and leaned over. "What's the matter? Done chasing? You were pretty cocky a minute ago. Can you still act tough now? Ha 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 ha." Tatsumaki was incandescent with rage. Oceanic psychokinesis erupted from her body like a churning sea, rushing toward the Emperor. But Homeless Emperor was prepared. Having received his second blessing from God, his control over energy had increased drastically. A semi-transparent energy barrier already protected him. Seeing her strike fail and knowing a ground battle put her at a disadvantage, Tatsumaki prepared to take flight again. But Nyan appeared behind her once more, his claws poised to strike. This time, however, a slight smirk played on Tatsumaki's lips. The fury from being ambushed was gone. Finally took the bait. "I've been waiting for this." In an instant, Tatsumaki abandoned all defense. She concentrated 100% of her psychokinesis on the newly revealed Nyan. Nyan felt as if a massive, divine mountain had been dropped on his back. The crushing pressure acted as a set of heavy shackles, pinning his proud speed to the ground. Just then, a thunderous, earthquake-like roar came from the earth behind him, as if a colossal beast was approaching. Bad news. Nyan struggled to turn his head, only to see a massive, muscular juggernaut, jet black but radiating a shimmering brilliance. Super Alloy Rocket Elbow. -20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 135, Chapter 136, Are You Kidding Me? 1092 words. Chapter 136, Are You Kidding Me? Meanwhile, 1 light-year from Earth. On the surface of a barren, lifeless planet, a naked human walked across the desolate landscape. He possessed a lean, powerful physique, but his most striking feature was his shiny bald head. His dull eyes scanned his surroundings with mild curiosity. "Hello? Anyone here? If you're there, say something. At least tell me where I am." After waiting for a long time without a response, Saitama gave up. He lay flat on the ground, concentrating all his senses into his hearing. His simple, doodle-like face sharpened into an angular, serious expression. Serious hearing. In an instant, every seismic vibration and movement on the entire planet echoed in Saitama's ears. After a brief analysis, he stood up and sighed helplessly, beginning to stretch his limbs. "Looks like another dead rock with no life. I guess I can cut loose then." After swimming through the cosmos for a while, Saitama had stumbled upon a pretty good method to accelerate. He discovered it by accident when he was traveling at sublight speed and got caught in a planetary core explosion. He realized that if he triggered a planetary detonation himself, the massive kinetic impact of the explosion would propel him at light speed for a long duration and he wouldn't even have to use any of his own energy to move. With that thought, Saitama looked down at the deep red crust of the planet. He raised his fist, every muscle fiber erupting with physical power comparable to a collapsing star. Serious punch. Saitama's gaze focused as he smashed his fist into the ground. This seemingly simple punch triggered a cataclysmic change the moment it touched the surface. The entire planetary crust behaved like a layer of skin being ripped away. Invisible force hoisted a wave of rock 100 meters high, which then collapsed under the sudden surge of gravity, forming a massive abyss. Magma, boulders, and dust were sucked into the air by the warped atmospheric currents, looking like a waterfall flowing in reverse. Ultimate, terrifying power spread across the surface. Millions of spiderweb-like cracks crawled frantically across the planet's face. The ground disintegrated, magma erupted, and the force of the blow continued downward until it reached the planetary core. Boom! 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 Accompanied by a roar loud enough to make the stars tremble, the young planet produced a brilliant explosion, shattering into the cosmic void. In the vast expanse of space, a bald humanoid figure was now flying at the speed of light, hurtling in the direction he thought was correct. Dimensional space. God, who was busy transmitting his power to his proxies, suddenly froze. His body shuddered involuntarily, as if he had seen something horrific. That bald human who transcends the rules is an absolute monster. At this rate, he'll be back here in less than 2 hours. And compared to the remote threat of the baldy, the current threat was much more immediate.
The stars used to suppress King were cracking inch by inch. King's aura shot into the heavens like a massive, world-spanning pillar. The physical power surging within him caused space itself to distort. After several rounds of adaptation, King had evolved a body strong enough to resist the ceiling pressure, and he was still getting stronger. For him, this was a trial, a refining process. King's original aura and body were like unrefined iron, but after being tempered by the pressure of this divine seal, his density was thousands of times higher than before. This wasn't just a physical boost, it was a total upgrade of his aura and mental fortitude. Crack! The crisp sound of glass shattering echoed within King's body. His aura spiked once again. I've broken the 7th limiter. I thought God would be my greatest enemy, but he's actually turned out to be the ultimate EXP farm. King almost laughed at God's situation. He's literally funding his own enemy. Despite being suppressed, the power of the system was far superior to God's. King could still browse his status panel at will. Name, King. Gender, male. Abilities, King Engine, Extreme Regeneration, Precision Control, Energy Mastery, Adaptive Nature, Soul Indestructibility. Strength, 99,000. Speed, 89,500. Stamina, 88,500. Defense, 95,000. Spirit, 73,200. Note, the threshold for dragon level is 1,000 in all stats. Compared to before he was sealed, his stats had jumped nearly 8-fold. It was a terrifying ascent. To put it bluntly, King could now trade blows with his previous gate of death self while in his base form, and he'd likely be the one doing the suppressing. Staring at King's increasingly horrific aura, God had no choice but to divert 70% of his total power just to keep him pinned down. Only the remaining 30% was left to support his dragon-level executives on Earth. He was suffering in silence, a bitter pill he had been forced to swallow. As a god, in all the eons of time, he had never met such a disgusting fellow. He couldn't be killed. Releasing him would ruin the plan. Sealing him only made him stronger. If he could just keep killing him until he couldn't leave, that would be one thing, but the guy just kept getting stronger with every death. Driven to desperation, God was forced into the foolish act of funding the enemy, hoping only to complete the extermination of humanity before King grew powerful enough to shatter all his chains. But looking at the situation on Earth, his 5 dragon-level generals were currently stuck in a stalemate with those heroes. What a bunch of useless trash. Seeing his strongest subordinate, Diamond Sperm, dragged away by Blast made God feel even worse. Before he launched this final offensive, that bastard human named Blast had been pestering him daily with his little team of allies. Those bugs weren't particularly strong, at most, they reached the entry level of God tier. But every one of them possessed a unique secret technique, they were incredibly fast. Even as a god, he couldn't catch them without significant effort. With a terrifying Baldy returning to the solar system from the front and a super-buffed King about to break his seal from the back, God was caught in a pincer move. If he had human sweat glands, he'd be drenched right now. Are you kidding me? 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 136, Chapter 137, Mr. King is holding back God alone? 907 words. Chapter 137, Mr. King is holding back God alone? City Z. Super Alloy Rocket Elbow. Nyan stared at the black muscle beast closing in on him. He felt as if Judgment Day had arrived. Every hair on his body stood on end as if he'd been struck by lightning. Where the hell did this monster come from? Facing a life-or-death crisis, Nyan realized it was too late to dodge. He gathered every ounce of his divine power into his claws and unleashed a frantic, desperate barrage of slashes. Looking at the weak, insignificant claw strikes, Darkshine's mouth curled into a confident smirk. The luster on his muscles grew even more radiant. He had been scared out of his wits by Diamond Sperm's perfect physique earlier, but now that Diamond Sperm had been hauled away by Blast, Darkshine was once again the most perfect specimen of muscle on the battlefield. Darkshine himself couldn't quite explain it, but ever since he grasped the true essence of the elbow strike during the alien invasion, his confidence had reached new heights. Even his muscular durability had increased along with his ego. Even if he suffered a temporary setback, he could instantly find a reason to restore his self-esteem. For instance, he had been intimidated by Diamond Sperm's perfect muscles. But seeing Blast haul the monster away, Darkshine subconsciously thought. A perfect existence like Diamond Sperm was taken away by Blast, but I wasn't. Diamond Sperm was caught, I wasn't. Therefore, me Diamond Sperm.
Armed with this delusional confidence, Darkshine charged forward like a 100-ton semi-truck loaded with steel coils. The violent wind pressure alone made it difficult for Nyan to even breathe. In the next second, the massive muscular frame collided head-on with Nyan's sharp claws. Boom! 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 An invisible shockwave exploded outward from the point of impact. Nyan let out a pathetic screech as his cat-like body was sent flying like a discarded burlap sack. He vanished into the horizon as a tiny black, trailing wisps of blood across the sky. With that single hit, Nyan felt as if his internal organs had been turned to pulp and half the bones in his body had shattered.
Are you kidding me?
Nyan's pupils were flooded with blood, his gaze filled with disbelief.
He couldn't understand it.
His all-out strike had failed because his attack range was too small. He had only managed to tear the muscle on Darkshine's forearm, a wound barely deep enough to show bone. In exchange, he was nearly turned into a smear of paste.
It was a completely unequal trade.
He remembered this man. This was the same dark-skinned human who had been swatted away by Diamond Sperm at the start of the fight.
How could he be this strong?
On the other side, Darkshine dug his feet deep into the pavement, carving a trench dozens of meters long before his momentum finally stopped. Looking toward where Nyan had been launched, and savoring the memory of the crisp crunch of breaking bones he'd heard upon impact, Darkshine's confidence soared even higher. He struck a pose designed to make his lats look as wide as a barn door, his skin shimmering brilliantly under the sun.
This is me. Super Alloy Darkshine.
The third person in the Hero Association you absolutely must not provoke. Any monster who crosses me will be crushed under the weight of my muscles. Watching Nyan get blasted into the unknown, the previously arrogant homeless emperor froze. Cold sweat began to drip down his forehead.
This is bad.
He turned to flee, a disk of energy manifesting beneath his feet, but he was pinned in place a second later. Tatsumaki, who had been lying on the ground, stood up. Facing the increasingly terrified homeless emperor, she raised her hand. He was instantly locked in a psychic grip, unable to move a muscle. His bones began to groan and creak, on the verge of being twisted into a knot. Ultimately, however, Tatsumaki suppressed the urge to grind him into a meat pie. She held him firmly in place with her telekinesis. According to Child Emperor's analysis, this homeless emperor was likely the one closest to their target. He had previously claimed to be blessed by God and had likely undergone a second empowerment. The heroes had too little intel on this god. They needed to capture someone who knew the truth and interrogate them. Homeless Emperor was the perfect candidate. Realizing he was completely restrained and unable to escape, Homeless Emperor knew his time was up, but his mouth remained vicious.
Look at you heroes. Do you really think you've won? I'm telling you.
The supreme, all-good, and all-powerful god has not even made his move yet.
The moment he does, you lowly humans will be nothing but dust.
If it weren't for your strongest man on Earth King blocking our Lord's path, he would have personally descended to crush you all long ago.
Homeless Emperor's fanatical shouting echoed in the air. Both Tatsumaki and Darkshine, standing nearby, froze in shock. Mr. King is blocking God alone? Now that you mention it.
I haven't seen a sign of Mr. King since this started.
Could it be? Darkshine's eyes went wide.
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 137, Chapter 138, I can't even scratch this guy. 1,130 words. Chapter 138, I can't even scratch this guy.
Darkshine's confidence continued to overflow.
He struck another looking up at the mountain pose, his muscles arranged like perfect slabs of bedrock. Since Mr. King is holding back God himself, he's given us the chance to pick off these divine minions one by one.
We have to give it our all.
However, because his own massive muscles were blocking his line of sight, Darkshine hadn't actually looked at his forearm yet. Tatsumaki frowned, a psychic shield flickering around her to prevent any stray blood from splattering on her face.
She couldn't help but speak up.
Hey, big guy.
Maybe stop playing with your muscles for a second and stop the bleeding in your arm? You're spraying blood everywhere.
Huh?
Am I?
Prompted by Tatsumaki, Darkshine suddenly felt a twinge of pain. A burning sensation radiated from his forearm.
He looked down.
Then he looked up again. The confidence on his face had vanished without a trace. His dark complexion turned a sickly, ashen gray. It is common knowledge that when a person suffers a severe injury, the brain temporarily blocks out the pain while the body floods with adrenaline. It's only after the adrenaline fades and the brain stops suppressing the signal that the true agony sets in. Looking at the massive chunk of muscle gouged out of his forearm, and the faint glimmer of white bone exposed to the air, Darkshine's pupils dilated with shock. He stumbled back several steps. Noticing his state, Tatsumaki reached out with her mind to steady his swaying body, her voice filled with confusion.
What's wrong, big guy? It's just a small wound. Unless, was that guy's claws poisoned? But that shouldn't be right.
I have wounds on my back too, and I don't feel any toxin.
Darkshine's breathing became heavy and ragged.
Looking at the blood that wouldn't stop flowing, he let out a high-pitched, shrill scream. My muscles are damaged.
The wound is huge. It's over. My invincible muscles have been breached. My body is no longer indestructible.
As his confidence evaporated, the image of his perfect self shattered in his mind. Like a punctured balloon, his fighting spirit leaked out instantly. His massive frame curled into a fetal position. Tatsumaki stared at him, dumbfounded. She hadn't expected Darkshine's heart to be so fragile. She scratched her green curls in frustration, having no idea how to comfort this emotionally wounded giant. Since no one had ever comforted her when she was sad, she had no playbook to follow. Whatever. With this guy's natural defense, nothing else on this battlefield is likely to actually kill him.
I'll leave him be for now.
After calling his name a few more times only to have him bury his head deeper into his arms like an ostrich, Tatsumaki gave up. She grabbed the restrained homeless emperor with her psychokinesis and flew toward Child Emperor's position. Watching Tatsumaki fly away, Darkshine stroked the mangled flesh of his arm, his face pale as he felt the throbbing pain. But then, a thought struck him. His terror began to recede.
Miss Tatsumaki was hit by that monster's claws.
I was also hit by that monster's claws.
Miss Tatsumaki couldn't kill that cat monster even while taking the hit.
But I, while taking the hit, managed to slam into that cat monster and knock him half dead. Therefore,
me Miss Tatsumaki. With that realization, the unease in Darkshine's heart vanished.
In its place rose a newly reconstructed wall of arrogance. His muscles began to glow with that signature oily shine once more.
So what if I took a little damage? My muscles won't get weaker just because of a scratch. No one gets through a battle without a wound. This is the passion a real man should have. Reinvigorated, a confident smile returned to Darkshine's face. Inside the shield.
Seeing that homeless emperor, the man who had been carpet-bombing the field with infinite firepower, had finally been neutralized, Child Emperor let out a long sigh of relief.
He and Drive Knight deactivated their defensive barriers simultaneously. Thank goodness Tatsumaki-san took out that weird uncle, our shield energy was almost at zero.
The moment the barrier dropped, Atomic Samurai, who had been sitting idly on the ground, flashed a grin. His body turned into an afterimage as he charged straight for the remaining dragon-level executives, Gums and Führer Ugly. As the S-Class Rank 4 Sword Saint, he had been feeling beyond frustrated. Representing the pinnacle of high attack/low defense, he had been forced to hide under a dome because of Homeless Emperor's AoE spam. Now, Gums and Führer Ugly were about to face the long-repressed wrath of a master swordsman. Watching Atomic Samurai charge forward with such manic intensity, Child Emperor popped a fresh lollipop into his mouth.
Feeling the sweetness, he couldn't help but comment. Looks like Uncle Atomic was reaching his breaking point. The look on his face while he runs to cut those monsters is kind of like a total creep.
Drive Knight merely monitored Atomic Samurai's movements for a second before turning back to the three wounded heroes behind them. His flat, mechanical voice echoed through his vocal processors. I will leave the combat to Atomic Samurai and the others.
How should we handle these three casualties? Ugly face caving punch. A colossal fist smashed into the ground, whipping up a massive shockwave. The earth let out a deafening roar as if hit by a meteorite, shattering into dust instantly. At this moment, Führer Ugly was incoherent with rage. His giant fists moved so fast they left afterimages, repeatedly pounding at the human before him. Damn it! Damn it! Why can't I hit him? He's right there, but I can't land a blow. Führer Ugly felt like he was punching water. Every time he aimed a strike at the human, his fist would mysteriously slide off to the side, hitting the ground instead. Facing fists large enough to blot out the sun, Bang remained stoic. His raised hands flowed with a faint blue radiance, like a gentle stream. Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. His calloused human palms met Führer Ugly's titanic fists, yet there was no violent explosion. Instead, the contact was as smooth as flowing water. With a slight shift of his body, Bang redirected the massive momentum of the punch, causing it to crash into the earth beside him.
Looking up at the terrifying, 100-meter-tall monster, Führer Ugly was frustrated, but Bang was feeling the strain as well.
Damn it. I can't actually deal any damage to this guy. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segiz. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 138, Chapter 139, Atomic Slash. 1067 words. Chapter 139, Atomic Slash. Bang's greatest weakness was fighting non-humanoid monsters. His exquisite martial arts were designed for human-shaped targets of a reasonable size. The current Führer Ugly might have been humanoid once, but look at him now. He was 100 meters tall. Every one of Bang's strikes, which usually had the power to pierce through a man, only left tiny puncture wounds on Führer Ugly's colossal frame. To make matters worse, those holes healed themselves within 2 seconds. It made the fight incredibly frustrating for Bang. His attacks felt like he was just giving the monster a light shave. To use a gaming analogy, it was like a tank with maxed out defense and health regen dueling an assassin who had put every single point into evasion. Because the assassin's dodge rate was too high, the tank couldn't land a hit. But the assassin's damage was too low to break the tank's armor. The two were stuck in a miserable stalemate. Führer Ugly had realized this as well. After another one of his heavy strikes was redirected, he suddenly stopped and lowered his fists. Enough. Neither of us can kill the other. Let's call it a draw and end this here. The moment the words left his mouth, Führer Ugly turned and bolted without hesitation. He didn't even glance at Gums, who was currently being tag-teamed and pummeled by the other S-Class heroes. Are you kidding me? As he sprinted away, Führer Ugly scanned the area out of the corner of his eye. The most powerful one, Diamond Sperm, had been snatched away by that mysterious man and was still MIA. Homeless Emperor, who spent all day screaming about being a messenger of God, was currently tied up like a holiday turkey by the heroes. Nyan had vanished. Judging by the shockwaves earlier, he'd probably been dealt with too. As for Gums? That guy was just a walking punching bag at this point. Realizing his teammates were either AFK or neutralized, Führer Ugly, no matter how dim-witted, knew that if he didn't leave now, he'd be surrounded and beaten to death by the remaining S-Class heroes. He was strong, but he wasn't solo the entire S-Class strong. Just as his mind raced with escape plans, a voice filled with irritation and cold fury rang out behind him. Oi, oi, oi. Where do you think you're going? Eat my blade. With a thunderous shout, Führer Ugly felt the very air around him turn sharp, as if thousands of invisible swords were leveled at his skin. His dragon-level instincts screamed. Every hair on his body stood on end. He reflexively tensed his muscles to their absolute limit, boosting his physical defense to the max. Atomic Samurai appeared behind Führer Ugly like a vengeful ghost. His blade traced silver-white streaks through the air, tearing the atmosphere apart as a localized storm of slashes erupted. Atomic Slash. Führer Ugly felt a series of cold chills wash over him, followed by a tidal wave of agonizing, tearing pain. He couldn't stop himself from screaming. In a split second, his massive body was covered in thousands of overlapping cuts. Every wound was bone deep, and blood sprayed out like a fountain. Atomic Samurai, a toothpick still between his teeth, flicked the excess blood off his blade. He didn't even bother turning around to look at the screaming giant behind him. A true master of the sword never looks back at an opponent who is already dead. In his mind, this was just a monster with a large hitbox and zero meaningful defense. After a full-power atomic slash, there was no logical reason for it to still be alive. But in the very next heartbeat, a voice suppressed by ultimate, white-hot rage exploded across the battlefield. You bastard. That hurts. Ugly face-caving punch. Atomic Samurai's pupils constricted. He spun around and drew his blade in a single motion, unleashing a wave of sword chi that sliced the incoming fist clean in half. However, that was just a feint. Führer Ugly grinned hideously. His other fist had already reached a position directly above Atomic Samurai, descending like a meteorite from the heavens. Crap! Atomic Samurai's heart skipped a beat. He had just overextended to cleave the first fist, his momentum was spent, and his new strength hadn't gathered yet. He was wide open and unable to dodge. Die! I'm going to turn you into a meat pancake. Just as the fist was about to crush him, a silver-haired blur appeared at Atomic Samurai's side. Don't forget about this old man. You shouldn't ignore your dance partner so easily. Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. Bang leaped into the air, his palms flowing with the grace of a mountain stream as they met the descending colossal fist. In the next second, Führer Ugly felt his immense power being led astray. His fist was redirected yet again, smashing into the ground beside Atomic Samurai and leaving a massive crater. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it all! Führer Ugly felt more frustrated than he had ever been in his entire life. This was the most humiliating battle he'd ever fought. He was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. The scarlet spray had already formed literal puddles and small streams beneath his feet. He had incredible regenerative powers, yes, but the atomic slash had carved so many gashes into him that he was currently using all his energy just to stop the bleeding. Full recovery would take time he didn't have. Watching the monster's face twist in a mask of rage and madness, Bang glanced past the giant's shoulder. A faint smile touched the old man's lips. It looks like the finisher has arrived. That hurts. You seemed to be having fun hitting me earlier, didn't you? A furious roar erupted. Führer Ugly felt a biting gale approaching from behind. In his blinded rage, he didn't even think, he just spun around and threw a haymaker. In an instant, a bent, battered metal bat collided head-on with a fist the size of a house. After a microsecond of stalemate, the sound of meat and bone being pulverized rang out. Führer Ugly's entire arm was vaporized into a mist of blood by the impact of the bat. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 139, Chapter 140, He's Shorter Than Me. 1060 words. Chapter 140, He's Shorter Than Me. Führer Ugly let out a wretched scream, stumbling back several steps. He clutched his severed arm, his face a mask of utter disbelief and terror. Impossible. My body was enhanced by Lord God himself. How could a mere human damage me to this extent? Standing before Führer Ugly's colossal frame was a tiny, insignificant human. He was about 1.7 meters tall, wearing a tattered red shirt. His black hair was soaked with blood that dripped steadily down his face. His already fierce eyes were now practically demonic. Metal Bat leaned on his bat, which was bent into an unrecognizable shape. Hearing the wretched screams, he picked his ear in annoyance. Stop screaming, you're noisy as hell. So what if I broke one of your arms? You broke dozens of my bones and you don't hear me whining. You've got a massive body but the courage of a flea. Metal Bat's mocking words were like a blade plunged directly into Führer Ugly's heart. Before becoming a monster, he had suffered endless humiliation and mockery in human society due to his hideous appearance. After monsterizing, he gained power proportional to his ugliness, but his temperament became volatile and he developed a deep hatred for anything beautiful. In this moment, humiliation and rage intertwined. Führer Ugly's eyes turned a solid, pulsating scarlet as his last shred of reason evaporated. His 100-meter-tall body began to swell yet again. His flesh let out a sickening, squelching sound as the mangled stump of his arm and the gashes from the atomic slash began to knit together and heal. God hadn't just granted Führer Ugly a massive size and strength, he had given him a desperate, high-speed regeneration ability triggered in life-or-death situations. Though this regeneration consumed his very life force, Führer Ugly no longer cared. He only wanted one thing, to grind these 3 ants into the dirt. Child Emperor's brow was furrowed as he looked at the pile of mangled meat before him. It was a twisted mass of flesh that no longer resembled a human, the remains of Tank Top Master. If it weren't for the fact that he could still sense a tiny, flickering spark of life, he would have declared the man dead on the spot. How do we even save this? No matter how advanced our tech is, we can't just puzzle piece a man back together, can we? Child Emperor's voice was heavy. If they couldn't save him, the S-Class would officially lose a member. Child Emperor had always respected Tank Top Master. Although the man was a bit too lenient with his Tank Top Army subordinates, he himself was a kind-hearted man and the embodiment of hard work and self-improvement. One could say that 110% of the conscience in the entire Tank Top family was concentrated in their leader. The other Tank Top heroes were effectively in a 10% moral deficit. Drive Knight's scarlet mechanical eye scanned the remains. After a brief analysis, he shook his head. Physical destruction is at 85%. Almost every bone in his body is a comminuted fracture. Even his heart, a vital organ, has been crushed. If it weren't for the fact that a high-level hero's vitality is incredibly resilient and his brain remains unpulverized, he would be long dead. An injury of this magnitude would have killed any ordinary human 10 times over. In Drive Knight's assessment, the fact that Tank Top Master was still technically alive was a miracle in itself. In his current state, even if he survived, he would only live in eternal agony. Child Emperor and Drive Knight were the top technical minds of the association.
They knew better than anyone that the association did not possess the technology to heal a body this far gone.
If there's truly no way, we should at least give him a quick end.
He's our comrade, after all, Child Emperor said, his small fists clenched, his voice cold but filled with hidden sorrow.
Drive Knight didn't answer, but his silence was a sign of agreement.
Just as the two were about to liberate Tank Top Master, Pig God, who was nearby fighting Gums, witnessed the scene. Minutes ago, Pig God had managed to escape Gums' stomach through a combination of his own desperate struggling and Watchdog Man's relentless external attacks. Seeing Child Emperor and Drive Knight preparing to finish off Tank Top Master, Pig God's eyes widened behind his layers of fat.
He let out an urgent roar. Wait! Tank Top Master can still be saved. Snap his tank top. Ha! Child Emperor and Drive Knight were stunned. They looked down and realized that while Tank Top Master himself had been turned into a censored mosaic of meat, the seemingly ordinary blue tank top he wore was completely unscathed. Could it be that the tank top itself has some hidden power? Child Emperor recalled that every time he met Tank Top Master, the man was preaching about the versatility of the tank top and treated the garment like a sacred relic. Deciding to try a Hail Mary pass, a mechanical arm extended from Child Emperor's backpack. It pinched the strap of the blue tank top, pulled it back as far as it would go, and snapped it back against the meat. Thwack! With the crisp sound of the elastic rebounding, a miracle occurred. The pile of mangled meat began to writhe and pulse. Like a jigsaw puzzle assembling itself, the flesh began to reform into a human shape. Under the shocked gazes of Child Emperor and Drive Knight, the meat mosaic grew skin, facial features were drawn as if by an artist's pen, and the signature blonde hair and powerful muscles restored themselves at Godspeed. In less than 20 seconds, the man who looked like a goner was back to full health. Ha! Wasn't I just crushed into a pancake? Am I alive? Tank Top Master's voice rang out, full of wonder.
But Child Emperor instinctively took a step back, his eyes filled with a mix of relief and pure shock. He was relieved that his comrade lived. But he was shocked because... Why the hell are you a 1.2 meter tall, 4 feet, muscle-bound midget now? You're shorter than me. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segiz. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 140, Chapter 141, It Feels Like I'm Inside a Washing Machine. 1057 words. Chapter 141, It Feels Like I'm Inside a Washing Machine. Tank Top Master snapped his eyes open, only to find Child Emperor and Drive Knight staring at him with incredibly strange expressions. He looked down at his body. He still possessed his chiseled, bulky muscles. A smirk curled his lips. Thank goodness the muscles I worked so hard for are still here. As expected, the tank top is the ultimate faith. Only the tank top can lead us through a breakthrough. Tank Top Master knew for a fact that the Hero Association's technology couldn't have saved him after he had been squeezed into a censored mosaic. Therefore, his perfect recovery was undoubtedly thanks to the miraculous power of the tank top. But, why does Child Emperor look so much taller? Did he use some special high-tech growth serum? And why does Drive Knight look like a skyscraper from my perspective? Is he equipped with some sort of specialized external tactical armor? Tank Top Master suddenly sensed something was off. The two people in front of him were way too tall, and they were eyeing him like he was a specimen in a jar. Filled with confusion and unable to withstand their weird stares any longer, Tank Top Master opened his mouth to speak. What's wrong? Is there something on my face? High-pitched mosquito voice. The moment he spoke, Child Emperor's mouth twitched. He nearly burst out laughing but managed to bite it back. Hearing his own voice, Tank Top Master's pupils constricted. He touched his throat in disbelief, attempting to make different sounds in horror. Ha! High-pitched mosquito voice. Ugh! High-pitched mosquito voice. High-pitched mosquito voice. What is going on with my voice? Why is it so squeaky? High-pitched mosquito voice. After a full minute of experimenting, Tank Top Master slumped to the ground, his face ashen. He finally accepted the reality that he now sounded like a mosquito. He eventually learned the details of his resurrection from Child Emperor and Drive Knight. It was indeed the mystical power of the tank top that brought him back. However, the price of this resurrection was hard to swallow. If Tank Top Master guessed correctly, the process had consumed his physical mass, and his vocal cords had shrunken along with his body.
But because his subconscious was fiercely protective of his muscle mass, the tank top acting as the vessel of his conviction refused to reduce his muscle volume. Instead, it compensated by drastically reducing his overall height. In other words, Tank Top Master had become a muscle dwarf. It would likely take months of recovery to get his height back. Child Emperor opened his mouth to say something but found himself at a loss for how to comfort the grieving hero. Whatever. I'll just develop a super concentrated version of protein powder for him later. Deep space. Exactly how much further is it? I can't even see the shadow of the sun. Saitama paddled his hands forward, his legs constantly bending, kicking, and snapping back together. He was repeating a breaststroke motion over and over, traversing the stars at a velocity approaching the speed of light. Even so, in this region roughly 1 light-year away from the solar system, even moving at near light speed would take him over a year to arrive. Just then, a brilliant silver light erupted against the desolate, dark backdrop of space. Saitama turned his head in confusion and saw a spatial rift radiating intense silver energy slowly manifesting. Space in the universe isn't always indestructible, occasionally, fragile regions appear. After experiencing violent spatial turbulence, there's a chance they can bridge with reality, creating a temporary rift that soon repairs itself. Saitama didn't understand the physics, but he could sense a current inside the rift, like a river that one could drift along. Moreover, a gut feeling told him that stepping inside was the right move. Whatever. Flying through this place forever is getting old, and I might be going the wrong way anyway. Let's try this. Saitama remembered that he had arrived here because he accidentally touched a silver glowing area on Earth. If I touch it again, maybe it'll teleport me back? With that thought, Saitama swam over without hesitation. He grabbed the edges of the spatial rift with both hands and exerted force with his arms. Crack! The spatial rift emitted the crisp sound of shattering glass. Saitama forcibly pried open the area swirling with chaotic spatial currents. Here goes nothing. Saitama yanked his hands back, launching himself like a cannonball into the rift. He was instantly swallowed by the silver tide. If anyone who understood spatial dynamics were watching, they would have passed out from pure terror. These accidental spatial rifts are usually filled with violent, chaotic currents capable of shredding anything in existence. Even a god-tier spatial master like Blast wouldn't dare enter a wild rift like this unprotected. One slip-up and you'd be reduced to subatomic particles. However, the bald demon jumped in without a single defensive precaution, allowing himself to be swept into the ocean of chaotic space. Whoa! It feels like I'm rolling around inside a washing machine. The world spun around him. Saitama was tossed and turned by the surging, ferocious spatial currents, traversing the cosmos in a way that was effectively a cheat code. Die. Die 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 die. Ugly face-caving punch. Führer Ugly was bordering on insanity, swinging his massive fists with desperate fury. Every punch made the earth tremble, every strike shattered the surface, leaving massive craters in his wake. Atomic Samurai leaped into the air, his blade flashing as he delivered thousands of slashes in an instant before landing gracefully behind the monster. As he pulled the toothpick from his mouth and flicked it, blood blossomed like flowers all over Führer Ugly's body, his flesh having been diced by the blade. Driven to a white-hot rage by the pain, Führer Ugly roared and swung a fist at Atomic Samurai. Atomic Samurai didn't panic. He calmly placed the toothpick back between his teeth, looking completely unbothered. In the next second, Bang appeared at Atomic Samurai's side. His palms, swirling with faint blue light, struck out. Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segiz. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 141, Chapter 142, I'm taking it back. 1,102 words. Chapter 142, I'm taking it back. Accompanied by the explosion of refined water stream force, Führer Ugly's fist was redirected yet again. His entire face flushed beet red with rage, his features twisting into a mangled knot. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it all! Why are you all targeting me? Is it because I'm ugly? You pretty-faced bastards should all just rot and die. Führer Ugly unleashed a psychotic shriek. The violent sound waves created visible ripples in the air, making Bang and the others' eardrums throb with pain. Why are you screaming so loud, you prick? An annoyed voice erupted right next to Führer Ugly. Seizing the moment of the monster's distraction, Metal Bat had somehow appeared at his side, his bat raised high into the air. In a dimension invisible to the naked eye, a torrent of fighting spirit was surging from Metal Bat's body,
flowing like a tidal wave into his weapon.
Savage beatdown. Metal Bat roared.
He swung his bat with bone-shattering force into Führer Ugly's leg. Accompanied by the sickening squelch of pulverized flesh and the sharp crack of a femur snapping, Führer Ugly's left leg was bent into a perfect less-than-sign shape. Howling in pain and losing his balance from the broken limb, the 100-meter giant toppled over. His massive frame slammed into the pavement, kicking up a wall of dust. He struggled to lift his head, his already hideous face now smeared with dirt and grime, looking even more revolting than before. His sanity was completely gone. His eyes were pools of liquid scarlet as he frantically smashed his remaining fist at the spot where Metal Bat had just been. However, in his heavily injured state, Metal Bat's stats had skyrocketed. He simply leaped high into the air, evading the fist, and landed squarely on Führer Ugly's back. Metal Bat slicked back his hair with a blood-stained hand, forming a perfect pompadour. "You're ugly, you're noisy, and I've been itching to bash your skull in since I saw you." As his voice fell, Metal Bat leaned back, his arm muscles bulging to the point of tearing his sleeves. He brought the bat down with everything he had onto Führer Ugly's spine. Gerrrf! Führer Ugly's 100-meter body was literally folded into a V shape by the impact. The ground beneath him spider-webbed with cracks, and debris shot into the sky.
With his spine snapped, Führer Ugly lost all motor function. He could only writhe helplessly on the ground like a dying worm.
His voice was a raspy hiss, squeezed through gritted teeth, filled with poisonous spite and weakness.
"Die. I'm going to kill you all.
I'll destroy every one of your faces."
"Enough."
A roar like a planetary collision exploded in Führer Ugly's ears. In his vision, blurred by blood and tears, a twisted humanoid figure suddenly materialized. The entity had no facial features, and its voice was vast and magnificent, yet it carried an unmistakable tone of cold, disappointed rage. "You are all useless trash. You are unworthy of my power. I am taking it back." The moment the words hit him, Führer Ugly felt the divine power within his body being forcibly extracted, flowing out into the void.
His colossal frame began to shrink.
His very life force was being sucked out along with the power.
His once robust muscles withered into nothingness.
Realizing his end was near, Führer Ugly's eyes filled with primal terror. He shook his head frantically.
"No! Lord God! You can't do this. Please! I can still fight. I can still kill them. Silence! Useless things! I will reclaim every one of you. You no longer have the right to exist. No, please!" Führer Ugly's cries grew faint. His massive body gradually turned into a shriveled, mummified husk. His skin hung loose and gray as his life signs flatlined completely. The S-Class trio stood there, completely dumbfounded. Metal Bat, still standing on the mummy's back, stared at the corpse that looked like it had been sun-dried for a month. "What the hell? Why did this guy just turn into a raisin after I hit him?" Atomic Samurai's nose twitched. He gripped his blade tight, his eyes scanning the surrounding air with heavy suspicion. "Something's wrong. I feel a lethal pressure in the air. This place is turning into a death trap." Bang frowned deeply. He could sense that the energy and vitality within Führer Ugly had been drained by an external force. Recalling the monster's terrified final expression, he connected the dots. It seems the mastermind, the one calling himself God, has made his move. He's clearly dissatisfied with the performance of these executives. Atomic Samurai raised an eyebrow, a sharp, sword-like aura radiating from his body. "So you're saying the guy calling himself God is about to enter the ring personally?" Metal Bat let out a cold laugh, tightening his grip on his bat. The blood flowing down his face only added to his ferocity. "God or not, he can eat my bat first." On the other side of the battlefield, Pig God and Watchdog Man sensed the shift and instinctively retreated dozens of meters. Gums looked as if he had seen the personification of his greatest fear. He let out a shriek of terror, his massive maw splitting open as he tried to back away. But amidst his screams and the startled gazes of the two heroes, Gums's bloated, dumpling-like body began to shrink rapidly. He withered at a visible rate. In seconds, Gums crashed to the ground as a dried-out carcass, completely still. At the same time, Tatsumaki felt Homeless Emperor begin to struggle frantically in her psychic grip. She frowned and snapped. "Keep your filthy, hobo mouth shut. Or I'll rip your fifth limb off right now." But when she turned to look at his face, she froze. Homeless Emperor's eyes were wide with desperate denial and extreme terror. His face was as white as a sheet. "Lord God! I beg you. Don't take my power. I still need my revenge. I will continue to fight for you." Don't take it away.
No matter how loud he screamed, God remained unmoved. In fact, Homeless Emperor was the one God wanted to strip most. After all, this guy had been given a double portion of power, yet his combat results were pathetic. It was better to just recycle the investment.
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 142, Chapter 143, finally, my cheat code has arrived. 966 words. Chapter 143, finally, my cheat code has arrived. In that moment, Homeless Emperor's fanatical faith in God completely crumbled. No. Lord God. You cannot do this to me. For the longest time, Homeless Emperor believed that God, the great being who gave him power and saved him from his lowest point, was his true savior. But now, God was reclaiming that power and calling him trash. It was clear that from the very beginning, God had never respected him, he had simply treated him as a disposable vessel for his power. The realization shattered his heart. His face twisted into a mask of desperate fury. No. You cannot treat me like this. As your messenger, I have dedicated myself to your cause. I have waged war upon the world in your name. You cannot just silence your bullshit. God's roar exploded like divine thunder, instantly silencing the Emperor's emotional outburst. He stood frozen, his mind reeling. Inside the dimensional space, God was laughing in pure, cold rage. A gaping, twisted mouth appeared on his faceless head. How do you even have the audacity to speak? You claim to be my messenger? You claim I shouldn't strip your power? Then tell me, what have you actually achieved? You were granted a double portion of power. You possessed infinite firepower and divine power far greater than your peers. And yet, what did you do with it? You achieved nothing. You were captured. You even dare to turn back and blame me? You are nothing but a failure. Homeless Emperor was stunned into silence. His lips trembled, but before he could squeeze out another word, a massive suction force hit him. God expressed his extreme displeasure at the Emperor's insolence. When he had stripped the others, he had done it instantly. But with Homeless Emperor, he deliberately slowed the process. He wanted the man to feel every ounce of his life force and divine power being ripped away, a pain akin to having his tendons pulled and his bones stripped while still alive. The wretched scream tore through the sky. Homeless Emperor's face was a mask of primal terror. His body convulsed uncontrollably, shriveling into a dry husk at a visible rate. Soon, as his power and life force were completely drained, the screaming stopped. A mummified corpse fell to the ground, motionless. Even the dying Nyan in the distance wasn't spared. With one final shriek, his remaining life and divine power were sucked dry, leaving behind a shriveled feline husk. Zombie Man, who had finished regenerating, wiped the blood from his face. He stared at the dead Homeless Emperor with a look of heavy confusion. He's dead? And in such a gruesome way, it's like he saw something terrifying before the end. Was it God? Tatsumaki's expression was dark. She had been holding back her strength, afraid she'd accidentally twist Homeless Emperor into a pretzel before they could get any intel out of him. Now, the guy was dead before the interrogation could even start. I held back for nothing. Sensing the disappearance of all the unique monster signatures on the field, Bang looked up, his brow furrowed with gravity. They are all dead. The power granted to them by this so-called god has been reclaimed. Metal Bat slumped onto the ground. Due to the massive blood loss, his head was spinning. So, Old Man Bang. What do you think is happening now? Bang scanned the area. The once bustling City Z was a wasteland, reduced to ash by the clash between the S-class heroes and the 5 dragon-level executives. Even though 4 of their formidable enemies had fallen, every hero present felt a lingering sense of unease. At their level, intuition was rarely wrong. If a premonition felt this bad, it usually meant disaster was looming. Thinking of this, Bang's mind flashed to the image of the shimmering, crystalline juggernaut. His pupils constricted. If God has concentrated all of his reclaimed power into his single strongest executive, how are we supposed to respond? Metal Bat froze for a second, his face pale. He tightened his grip on his bat. That guy was a monster even before a buff. I can't guarantee my attacks would even scratch him now. Let's just hope that mysterious guy, Blast, can finish the job. And if he can't, then we go in together. Dimensional space. Useless mongrels.
God stared at the four spheres of light in his hand, a mixture of divine power and life force.
Chaotic colors rippled across his form, a sign of his peaking rage. King stood beside God. He was now able to move slightly within the dimensional space, though the shackles of the seal still made his movements slow. Even so, it was a terrifying display of progress. God realized this too. He knew that the strongest man on Earth, the man he had inadvertently been training, was about to break free. Distributing power to multiple dragon-level executives had created more units to stall the Hero Association, but God wasn't interested in a stalemate. He wanted a total, absolute breakthrough. With a thought, God swiped his hand across the void. A portal of light manifested in the space. The screen showed the shockwaves of the battle between Blast and Diamond Sperm, which were currently shattering the crust of planet 328. I give all four of these portions to you. Do not disappoint me. Diamond Sperm, currently locked in a high-speed clash with Blast, heard God's cold, indifferent voice ring in his mind. He instantly felt a surge of adrenaline. Holy SHT? Finally, my cheat code has arrived. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 143, Chapter 144, Solar Sperm. Arrives. 1094 words. Chapter 144, Solar Sperm. Arrives. In an instant, a spatial rift tore open behind Diamond Sperm. Four spheres of light, radiating immense life force, shot out and merged directly into his body. Solar Sperm felt a torrential wave of heat erupt from within. His already formidable physique hardened at a visible rate, and the pressure radiating from him caused the very fabric of space to groan and warp. The event unfolded too quickly for even Blast to intervene. Sensing that the monster's power was skyrocketing at an exponential rate, Blast felt a chill run down his spine. This is bad, this chosen one was already a threat. I didn't expect God to value him this much. I have to stop this evolution before it finishes. As a warrior who had spent years playing a high-stakes game against God, Blast could clearly sense the divine power within Diamond Sperm swelling. It was obvious that a divine blessing was fueling this metamorphosis. Since the power was a gift and not yet fully integrated, Blast knew that a timely interruption could potentially sever the link between the monster and God's energy. Dimensional gravity punch. Blast's eyes sharpened. He took a violent step forward, his fists shimmering with silver brilliance. He channeled crushing gravitational force into his knuckles, unleashing a barrage of hundreds of punches per second. Boom! 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 Dozens of circular spatial portals manifested in front of him. Blast's fists plunged into the portals, their exits appearing directly around Diamond Sperm. However, just as the first fist was about to connect, Diamond Sperm's face twisted into a look of pure disdain. Too slow. And too weak. Diamond Sperm's body shuddered. A shockwave of energy, saturated with berserk divine power, exploded outward from him, instantly shattering every spatial portal in the vicinity. Blast frowned, forced to redirect the remaining momentum of his gravity punches into the ground. The moment his fists hit the surface of planet 328, a series of apocalyptic mushroom clouds rose amidst deafening explosions. The crust buckled and collapsed, only to be held together by a lingering, invisible force. Realizing he couldn't stop the process, Blast felt a vain throb in his temple. Even as the mysterious S-Class Rank 1 hero, he found himself at a loss. The opponent was backed by a god. Most of his tactical options were being rendered useless, and he couldn't interrupt the evolution. He was in deep trouble. In that case, Blast slammed his fists together in front of his chest. Silver radiance rippled outward with the motion, reinforcing the local space. If I can't stop him from getting stronger, I must at least keep him trapped here. If a divine messenger of this caliber returns to Earth, it's game over for humanity. While Blast reinforced the planetary space, he watched the evolution continue. The more he saw, the more his heart hammered against his ribs. A sense of impending doom grew stronger by the second. Diamond Sperm had lost his brilliant, multifaceted luster. Now, his entire body looked like it was composed of flowing, high-density magma. Scorching flames licked across his skin. As the divine power and life force rampaged through his system, his body ballooned into a sphere of flesh nearly 100 meters wide. A tooth-aching screech of compression followed. Diamond Sperm's face twisted as he forcibly crushed all that energy back into his core. His body shrank, returning to his original 2-meter height. Boom! An invisible shockwave flattened the terrain for miles.
A bottomless abyss formed beneath his feet, and the very air warped from the intense heat radiating from his skin. His chiseled physique remained, but he was no longer a diamond.
He burned with an eternal, golden flame.
This wasn't fire in the traditional sense, it was the manifestation of his terrifying, overflowing life force.
Solar sperm arrives.
Feeling the power within him, power that was magnitudes beyond anything he had ever known, Solar Sperm felt like the undisputed ruler of heaven and earth.
A look of pure intoxication appeared on his face. Blast felt the crushing weight of the new aura. His pupils constricted. This guy, has he really reached this level of power already? Time to test his depth. Spatial slash. Blast flicked his fingers through the air.
The space around Solar Sperm's waist tore open as if struck by an invisible blade.
However, facing an attack that bypassed physical durability, Solar Sperm merely let out a mocking laugh. He reached down with one hand. Clang! With a sound like vibrating steel, the rift in space was caught by a hand wreathed in golden flames and forcibly pressed back together. What? Blast's eyes went wide. He never imagined Solar Sperm would be strong enough to physically manipulate the fabric of space. After the blessing, he's actually become this strong? I definitely can't let him leave. Thinking of the lives on Earth, his comrades in the Hero Association, and the hope of humanity resting on his shoulders, Blast's resolve hardened. But in the next heartbeat, Solar Sperm's voice drifted from directly behind him, sounding bored. I say, old man, how long are you going to keep staring? I haven't been over there for a while. The pupils behind Blast's yellow goggles shrank.
With a flash of silver light, he used his spatial ability to teleport dozens of kilometers away instantly.
His speed is that high? He's the most powerful divine messenger I've ever seen. But it's fine. In front of a spatial user like me, speed is just a number.
I say, you've been daydreaming for 0.2 seconds.
Why are you as slow as a snail? Blast felt a blur in his vision.
The tall figure burning with golden flames was standing right in front of him again, a playful smile on his face. Portal after portal flashed as Blast teleported repeatedly. Across the planet's surface, Blast's figure flickered at a speed invisible to any monitor, jumping across the landscape in a frantic attempt to create distance. But despite the constant spatial jumps, Solar Sperm relied on his terrifying, buffed speed to appear beside Blast the exact moment he exited a portal.
After thousands of consecutive teleports, even Blast's face began to turn pale. He was reaching his limit. Are you kidding me? Is there no ceiling to his speed? How is he still keeping up?
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon.
https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 144, Chapter 145, Something's Wrong. 1037 words. Chapter 145, Something's Wrong. Planet 328.
Solar Sperm was currently reclining with his hands behind his head, maintaining a casual, horizontal posture while being enveloped by rings of white airwaves. These weren't just airwaves, they were shattered sonic booms. Even on the surface of this planet with 10 times Earth's gravity, Solar Sperm could comfortably maintain speeds dozens of times the speed of sound. Having devoured 6 portions of divine power, possessing roughly 30% of God's total essence, and having absorbed the life force of the other 4 dragon-level executives, Solar Sperm had thoroughly transcended into the God-level tier. In contrast, Blast, who sat at the very threshold of God level, essentially the gatekeeper of the tier, could only feel a crushing sense of powerlessness.
Realizing that even his spatial jumps couldn't shake Solar Sperm, Blast stopped his movement.
He used his gravity manipulation to hover in mid-air, his brow furrowed in a deep, grim line.
Seeing Blast stop, Solar Sperm drifted to a stop just a few meters away.
The roaring golden flames on his body transformed into a violent heatwave that washed over the hero. Even without intentionally releasing his energy, the sheer radiant heat from Solar Sperm's life force was enough to raise the ambient temperature by thousands of degrees, a heat lethal to almost any living organism.
Without hesitation, Blast clenched his fists. He manipulated gravity to boost his speed to its absolute limit.
Then, he compressed 10,000 times normal gravity into his knuckles.
20,000x gravity punch. This was Blast's true limit. He could only sustain this level of gravitational compression on the surface of his fists, anymore, and his own body would collapse under the weight. Sensing the potency of the strike, Solar Sperm raised an eyebrow. A flicker of genuine interest appeared in his eyes. Not bad. At least among the humans I know, you are the second strongest. You should be proud of that.
The moment the words left his mouth, Solar Sperm moved.
Thousands of fists, wreathed in eternal golden flames, struck with a velocity approaching the speed of light. Blast's 20,000x gravity punch was instantly drowned in a sea of fist shadows. Solar sperm's abyss-like divine power pulverized Blast's gravitational aura. Arg! Agonizing pain erupted from every inch of Blast's body. His sturdy silver battle armor shattered instantly. Like a broken doll, he was sent hurtling backward, smashing viciously into the planetary crust. Boom! 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 The moment he hit the soil, the massive kinetic energy he was forced to carry was dumped into the ground. The entire planet shuddered. Torrents of magma erupted from the fissures on the surface. A catastrophic earthquake rippled across the globe. The ground buckled, magma roared, the sky seemed to fall, and space itself began to crack. Blast lay battered and broken at the center of a crater nearly a kilometer wide, unable to stop himself from coughing up lungfuls of blood. If he hadn't used his spatial power to divert most of the impact at the last millisecond, he would have been turned into a red mist on the spot. Solar sperm flickered and appeared before the fallen hero. Looking down at his miserable state, the monster's grin widened. Tisk, TSK, TSK. So this is the legendary S-Class Rank 1 mysterious powerhouse? Not much of a challenge, is he? 2 punches and you're down. Solar sperm stood up straight and threw a punch toward the sky. A violent shockwave erupted. The destructive energy literally tore a hole in the fabric of space, causing it to shatter like glass. Bad news. He's opening a spatial tunnel. Seeing this, Blast's pupils constricted. Alarm bells rang in his head. The strength of this divine messenger was beyond his wildest nightmares. If this monster returned to Earth, the human race would be systematically slaughtered. In his mind, while the other S-Class heroes each had their unique strengths, even their combined power wouldn't be enough to stall the entity standing before him. Blast tried to intervene, but the moment the thought formed, Solar Sperm glanced at him. What are you planning? The monster casually pointed a finger. A beam of compressed energy shot from his fingertip, piercing through both of Blast's legs, instantly crippling him. Looking at the broken Blast, Solar Sperm turned his head in disdain. His figure began to fade into the jagged spatial tunnel he had carved. A final sentence drifted back into the atmosphere. I won't kill you. You're one of the few humans who actually provided me with some amusement. Besides, you aren't worthy of being killed by me, you're too weak. I am the strongest. Ha 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 ha. The solar system. In the vast, lonely void of the universe, a massive star, a perpetual engine of nuclear fusion, floated silently, radiating light and heat. The warmth of this star illuminated the planets orbiting it. This was the heart of the system, the Sun. At a distance of 50,000 kilometers from the Sun, a spatial rift quietly opened. The rift only lasted for 2 seconds before beginning to seal itself. Within a blink, it had shrunk to a mere sliver. Unexpectedly, a shout of confusion came from inside the rift. In the next heartbeat, a pair of hands wearing cheap red rubber gloves grabbed the top and bottom edges of the sliver, bracing against them. Then, they pulled. Shatter! With a sound like breaking glass, the hand's owner, the bald demon, Saitama, climbed out. He turned his head and squinted at the scorching, brilliant star. A smile slowly spread across his face. I think that's the Sun. I'm back in the solar system? Saitama gazed into the distance. His vision, which far exceeded human limits, quickly locked onto a vibrant blue planet. Found it. Earth. Saitama decisively assumed a breaststroke position. With a powerful kick of his legs against the void of space, he began hurtling toward Earth at sublight speed. At the same time, inside the dimensional space, God's heart gave a sudden, violent jolt. An ominous feeling washed over him. Something was wrong. 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/sega's. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot, thank you. Chapter 145, Chapter 146, Deathgate Pro Max. 1,123 words. Chapter 146, Deathgate Pro Max. The moment Saitama re-entered the solar system, God felt it. It was like a tiger resting in its territory, only to have a Tiger II tank suddenly crash through the bushes. Even a tiger has to stop and hiss in confusion. At this moment, God was utterly bewildered. He had already overestimated this rule-breaking monster, but regardless of how strong you are, shouldn't you at least obey the laws of physics? God had based his timeline on the assumption that Saitama could travel at faster than light speeds. Even so, across a distance of 2 light-years, it should have taken at least 2 hours to return. And you're telling me you crossed 2 light-years in 30 minutes? As expected. You can't apply any cosmic logic to these rule-transcending freaks. FCK, asterisk. Sensing the violent emotional fluctuations from the entity before him, King, who was now able to move freely within the dimensional space, smirked and casually patted God's shoulder. Why such a big reaction? Let me guess, is it because your favorite Baldy is back? At this, King's grin widened. Along with the abyss-like vitality erupting from within him, the shackles on his body shattered at an even faster rate until they vanished completely. Well, you're about to face something even better. I'm finally strong enough to ignore your seal. How's that for a double blessing? Feel good? Though King was smiling, the killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. Anyone who had been forcibly pinned down for an hour, unable to move a muscle, forced to endure the agony of their bones being ground into powder every single second while watching their home be invaded, anyone would be out for blood. Realizing that King had completely broken the seal, God's heart sank. His chances of victory had plummeted again. He had been playing a game of blitzkrieg by the clock. His goal was to use his empowered subordinates to wipe out the Hero Association and take over Earth before King broke free and before Saitama returned. He had failed. Saitama was already back in the solar system, hurtling toward Earth. And the king standing beside him had grown powerful beyond measure, power that was now, effectively, on par with a god. Indeed, through constant adaptation, King's power had scaled to match God's own level. This was why the seals were failing. A sealing technique loses its efficacy against an opponent of equal caliber. This was the most disgusting part of the adaptive nature talent. Against a weaker opponent, King only needs to take a few hits to become 100% immune to their damage. Against a stronger opponent, through constant contact with their power, King's own strength will climb until it reaches their tier, at which point he adapts to them too. If you're weaker than me, I adapt in a second. If you're stronger, I grow until I match you, then I adapt anyway. Without a moment's hesitation, blood-red steam exploded from King's body. A violent, peerless aura of vitality flooded the entire dimensional space. The reinforced fabric of this dimension began to tremble and tear, unable to contain the sheer ferocity of his presence. King himself was shocked. He stared at his hands and clenched his fists. Am I really this strong now? He could feel the power within him flowing like a perpetual ocean, a constant supply of energy for the eighth gate. His vitality was burning, but it was being replenished just as fast as it consumed itself. In other words, as long as he wished it, he could maintain the eighth gate indefinitely. It had practically become his base form. This wasn't just the gate of death anymore, it was the Death Gate Pro Max. God stared at the erupting king, the chaotic colors on his body flickering wildly. Thousands of phantom stars manifested in the cosmic void above, crashing down toward King with world-ending momentum. Facing this, King simply raised his fists. In an instant, he threw tens of thousands of punches. Time seemed to freeze. In the next second, accompanied by deafening dragon roars, those thousands of fist shadows transformed into surging crimson dragons. Each one accurately collided with and shattered a falling star. Amidst the shower of celestial debris and the thunderous roar of explosions, King's gaze remained calm, though his aura burned even brighter. He no longer needed to use his legs for Night Guy. Now, every single one of his casual attacks carried the weight of a Night Guy strike. This was the result of a vitality so dense it could easily crush a planet. With this buff, every punch and kick King delivered was a masterpiece of horror. Simply put, he had become a super stat monster. Left punch, high damage. Right punch, higher damage. Seeing his attacks neutralized so easily, God attempted to manipulate the time and space of the dimension to counterattack, but his vision blurred. In the very next heartbeat, King's fist, carrying the power to shatter dimensions, slammed forward. It detonated God's head on impact. Chaotic colors scattered everywhere. Though he was now a headless torso, God could still speak. Everything you do is futile. Against a mortal like you, I am an undying, eternal existence. Even if your power has surpassed mine for a moment, so what? A mortal's strength can never reach a god existing in a higher dimension. You and I will never be on the same level. While the exploded god mocked him, he was secretly screaming at Solar Sperm, who had just reached the Earth's plane, to hurry up. He hoped King would waste his time here. With Solar Sperm's power, it would take less than 2 minutes to slaughter every member of the Hero Association. By the time King and that rule-breaking Baldy reached Earth, it would be too late. King didn't respond. He just kept punching. After exploding God's body over 100 times in a single minute, King realized the truth. God really couldn't be killed here. It wasn't that he regenerated or resurrected instantly. It was that King felt his power wasn't truly landing on a physical entity. It was like punching a high-definition hologram. You could destroy the image, but the source remained untouched. It was the frustrating sensation of hitting cotton with everything you have. It seems my attacks can't actually hurt him. However, there is someone else who definitely can. King stopped his assault. God's heart gave a little skip. A bad premonition bubbled up. He stopped? Did he figure it out? 20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segiz. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Chapter 146, Chapter 147, I Choose You, Garu. 1091 words. Chapter 147, I Choose You, Garu. King seemed to sense the shift in God's emotions. Just as he was about to leave, he paused, his brow furrowing slightly. Why do I feel such urgency coming from his heart? Has something catastrophic happened back on Earth? Minutes ago, God had blocked the vision between the dimensional space and Earth, preventing King from seeing the current state of the world. I need to get back immediately. With that thought, King raised his fist. He condensed the power capable of shattering an entire planet into a single point and smashed it forward, tearing a massive, jagged hole directly into the fabric of the dimensional space. God attempted to mock him further, hoping to bait King into staying and venting his anger on him to buy more time. But King didn't take the bait. He didn't even look back. With a massive leap, he threw himself into the spatial turbulence and vanished. Staring at the fracturing dimension and the empty spot where King had stood, God remained frozen. He floated in the void. Though he had no face to show expression, if he did, it would have been a mask of pure, distorted fury. This is bad. His sense of unease peaked. His ultimate backup plan was simple: if his subordinates couldn't slaughter the Hero Association before that rule-breaking Baldy returned, he would risk the damage to his own essence, descend into the lower dimension, and personally destroy the world. But he couldn't do that now. The image of King effortlessly exploding his form over and over was still fresh in his mind. The only reason he could maintain the facade of an immortal god was because King, as a lower dimensional being, couldn't direct physical damage to a higher dimensional entity's true core. But the moment he chose to descend to lower his dimension, he wouldn't even need the Baldy to show up. King would likely beat the literal divinity out of him on the spot. If I can't enter the ring myself. God swiped his hand to open a portal, quickly scanning Earth for a host capable of containing his power. He had only used 30% of his total divine power to buff solar sperm. The other 70% had been dedicated to sealing King. Now that King was free, that 70% was available. Solar sperm wasn't a safe bet. Based on what God had just witnessed, that monster wouldn't even need Saitama to deal with him. King could probably end him in 2 punches. He needed a host capable of autonomous evolution, someone who could grow infinitely on their own. He couldn't use another trash-tier host like solar sperm, who required constant manual power injections to evolve. The host needs massive potential. It doesn't matter if they are currently weak, I can pump them full of divine power to jumpstart them. The key is for them to grow on their own during combat. No. I can't let them have free will. This time, I'll pilot the body myself. Recalling Homeless Emperor's pathetic performance, God shuddered instinctively. He decided on a full manual operation. Scanning through the data of millions, God's gaze locked onto a white-haired youth wearing a zebra-striped prisoner uniform. The youth had spiky white hair that looked like it had been split down the middle by an axe. His muscles were lean and defined, and his sharp, predatory eyes were currently glaring at the ceiling in boredom. God rubbed his chin with his right hand. His will crossed the dimensions, locking onto the youth. His voice hissed with ecstasy. To possess such vast, untapped potential. Garu? You're the one. The prison. Garu stretched his limbs, his gaze drifting toward the massive hole in the prison wall across the yard. Looks like that damn muscle pervert finally left. A few days ago, when King had thrown Garu into prison, Puri prisoner had tried to play with him, finding the wild youth quite attractive. Garu had responded by beating the S-class hero into the dirt. Since then, realizing they were on a similar level of physical prowess, Puri prisoner had called a truce, and the two had effectively co-ruled the prison. Garu knew this was the perfect time to escape, but he chose to stay. He had decided to use the prison as a training ground, sparring with Puri prisoner until he could completely crush him. Only then would he officially debut. After all, his goal was the hero hunt.
It would be embarrassing to go out there just to get slapped into the pavement by a top-tier S-class hero. Just as he was about to hop off his bunk, Garou felt a sudden wave of dizziness. He collapsed onto the floor, his body going limp as if he were a corpse. When he opened his eyes, he was in a dark, empty void. Before him stood a twisted, humanoid entity, reaching out a hand.
Touch me. I will grant you ultimate power.
I will give you the strength to hunt every hero in existence and become the personification of absolute evil. Garou had no idea what was happening, but he knew the thing in front of him was bad news. He let out a cold laugh, intending to slap the hand away.
I don't care who you are. Hunting heroes is my business. Becoming absolute evil is my business. I don't want your handouts. Piss off.
Garou violently slapped the entity's hand aside.
The humanoid didn't show any anger.
Instead, it retracted its hand and nodded slowly.
Physical contact achieved.
You shall accept my power.
Become the most powerful divine messenger in the mortal world. Fight for me.
Ha! Garou's eyes went wide.
He lost his cool instantly. Slapping your hand away counts as contact? Are you kidding me?
He opened his mouth to give the entity a piece of his mind, but his consciousness suddenly blurred.
Damn it. I've been played. Across countless dimensions, chaotic colors descended upon the prison.
They manifested as a pillar of light connecting heaven and earth, pouring entirely into Garou's body. His frame began to transform at an extreme rate. His lean muscles bulked up, and a suit of black and gold armor began to grow across his skin.
And his human face?
It was gradually swallowed by the vast, deep void of a starry cosmos.
20 advanced chapters now available on Patreon. https://www.patreon.com/c/segas. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. If you like this novel, please consider leaving a review. That's helped the story a lot. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.